Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The main character dies inside of his previous life. He is reborn inside of Naruto, inside of Konoha, inside of the Uchiha clan. He leaves the village for a bit, and when he comes back, the Uchiha clan is already massacred. What is he gonna do now?
Asking me to deal with them is just sending me to my death. Sasuke sighed, realizing there was really no room for struggle. Although Orochimaru, who didn't intend to kill him, he didn't want to follow Orochimaru. Looking at his grotesque appearance, Sasuke didn't know what he would become if he stayed with him for too long. Although I can't deal with them, I have a way to help you escape. Don't underestimate the Swift Falcon clan, kid, the strange bird said smugly. Sasuke perked up at this and couldn't help but ask, how do we do it? Kabuto. Orochimaru didn't want things to drag on, so he directly ordered Kabuto to take action. He remembered the energy Sasuke used, the natural energy that he had given up back then. Orochimaru didn't understand how Sasuke mastered this power, but the unknown meant the unexpected, and he wanted to settle this matter with swift and decisive action. Kabuto didn't say anything more. A blue chakra appeared in his hand, a chakra scalpel, a ninjutsu similar to a low-level version of Lightning Blade. Kabuto wasn't taking it lightly. He always had to be extremely cautious when dealing with the Uchiha clan. Here it comes. Kid, let me show you my moves. The black swift bird saw Kabuto rushing over and flew directly to the top of the cave. Its wings flapped, creating a small storm. The storm wasn't very powerful, but it carried a pungent fragrance that permeated the entire cave. As soon as he stepped forward, Du sensed something was wrong and began to cover his mouth and nose, but it was too late. At that moment, he felt as if he had entered a space filled with grey fog, unable to distinguish front from back, left from right, and completely lost his way. It was another illusion. Orochimaru was also caught in the trap, but he reacted immediately. However, since he was unable to form hand seals, even though he knew it would be difficult to break free, he could only start calling Kabuto's name. Hurry up, kid, this move of mine won't last long, the strange bird urged, landing on Sasuke's shoulder. Sasuke seized the opportunity and immediately got up and ran towards the cave entrance. Just then, he saw Teuya still struggling on the ground. At this moment, she had not given up her desire to survive. Seeing Teuya's condition, Sasuke hesitated before making a decision. He simply picked her up and carried her on his back as they ran towards the cave entrance. Chapter 85, Greedy Wolf. Is this your teammate? Why are you still worrying about others at a time like this? The strange bird flew off Sasuke's shoulder and made an unpleasant sound. Enough with the nonsense. I have my own plans. Sasuke wasn't acting on a whim, he did have a plan. He hadn't kept Yilan's desire to learn the impure world reincarnation a secret from him, and he wanted to find out more about Orochimaru through Teuya. Even if it's only of some use, saving Doyu wouldn't be a loss. Moreover, having witnessed his comrade being killed by Kabuto, he did not believe that Teuya could remain loyal. Upon quickly reaching the cave entrance, Sasuke noticed that his chakra was slowly recovering after being impacted by the natural energy. When they arrived at the cave entrance, the figures of A and the others had already disappeared, meaning they must have left. Danzo, the Konoha advisor who clashed with Yilan last time, is definitely a suspicious person. Sasuke believed he hadn't done anything detrimental to Konoha, and he and Yoru had made many contributions to the village, so he probably had nothing to do with Tsunade. But what was Danzo's purpose in doing this? The now mature Sasuke also began to ponder this. Thud! The cave behind Sasuke began to collapse, making a loud noise. Sasuke's gaze sharpened, and he quickly hid in the jungle. He couldn't use much chakra at the moment, and if he ran, he would definitely be caught. It was better to hide first. A huge purple python emerged from the collapsed cave. Its head was triangular, and there were several small protruding horns behind its head. At this moment, Orochimaru and Kabuto were atop its head, looking down at everything around them. Orochimaru, what do you want from me this time? Manda has a bad temper and has always been unwilling to submit to Orochimaru's control. Every time he appears, he throws a tantrum. Lord Manda, don't worry, the offerings are all prepared, as long as you. Kabuto climbed on Manda to comfort him, though he was mostly afraid of this summoning beast. Shut up. Did I talk to you? Manda roared at Kabuto, annoyed that the kid was already annoyed by him and dared to talk to him without permission. Manda is ready. This is just a minor matter and won't cause trouble for too long, Orochimaru said. The key now is to find Sasuke. No matter what, I can't be short of my 100 sacrifices. Manda has a huge appetite and likes to use living people as sacrifices. If Orochimaru hadn't been able to meet its demands, it wouldn't have wanted to be summoned every time. Sensitize the area to see if there are any ninjas around and where they are. Orochimaru couldn't see Sasuke, so he figured Sasuke hadn't gone far and was likely hiding nearby. This is such a small matter, Wunsch muttered in dissatisfaction, but didn't say anything more. It was still willing to do it, if it could get a sacrifice for doing a small thing. Sasuke, who was hiding, noticed a thin film covering Manda's pupils and saw it flicking its tongue, sensing something was wrong. Manda wasn't using sensory ninjutsu, but rather the natural talent of a snake. Snakes can sense temperature differences based on their surroundings. Even if they can't see it, the temperature difference still exists. This is especially true for creatures like Manda, who can maximize this ability. No matter how well Sasuke hides, Manda can sense him like a torch in the dark. Don't panic, kid, watch this. The strange bird quietly landed on Sasuke's head. Its body was not small, and its weight was not light either. It almost made Sasuke, who did not have much chakra in his body, collapse. Stay still, don't move, don't get spotted. The strange bird complained softly, then stopped flapping its wings and sat motionless on Sasuke's head like a statue. Then Sasuke felt himself enveloped by an invisible special energy. Apart from his 5 senses, he could no longer use natural energy or chakra to perceive his surroundings. Sasuke remained motionless even when he saw this, despite feeling his body stiffen. After a while, the thin membrane on the eyes of the snake slowly opened, revealing a pair of snake eyes. Have you found anything? Orochimaru gradually lost his patience and asked somewhat impatiently. Orochimaru, are you kidding me? There's nothing around here except some animals, Manda said to Orochimaru with dissatisfaction, not believing that its senses were malfunctioning. Orochimaru's face was grim. Could it be that Sasuke had really run away? He had gone to great lengths and paid such a high price for Danzo, only to get nothing in return. This was unacceptable to Orochimaru, who was always self-healing and intelligent. Page 42. Lord Manda, would you like to sense it again? Kabuto, sensing Orochimaru's displeasure, mustered his courage and said, You mean there's something wrong with my perception, kid? Manda couldn't tolerate Kabuto's questioning, and the look in his snake-like eyes gradually became dangerous. While the snake and the two were still arguing, Teuya, who had been staying by Sasuke's side, frowned. Sasuke had already given her a simple bandage and stopped the bleeding when he took her away, but she didn't expect there to be any commotion at this moment. Teuya gradually opened her eyes, and what she saw was a blue sky. She was lying on her back next to Sasuke, and she turned her head in confusion, seeing Sasuke, who had just defeated her, right beside her. Oh no, kid. Don't let her move, the statue-like strange bird said urgently. Sasuke, whose senses were blocked, then noticed Teuya's actions and couldn't help but think that the strange bird's ability to block senses was truly amazing. However, this strength backfired on Sasuke. Just as he was about to hold Teuya down, she slapped his hand away. Ha! The snarling Manda suddenly froze, its gaze fixed on the direction where Sasuke was hiding. Seeing Manda's expression, Orochimaru hurriedly asked, "Manda, is it?" Manda didn't reply. It didn't want to admit that its senses were malfunctioning. It simply crouched down and charged towards the direction where Sasuke was hiding. The bodies of the myriad snakes formed a massive snake path on the dirt road, and the trees and rocks on the mountain could not stop their hard bodies. "Kid, forget about that girl, run." The strange bird knew it had been discovered and could only escape, so it flew directly over Sasuke's head. Sasuke stood up without hesitation and fled as fast as he could, ignoring Teuya. He had only run a few steps when he realized that Teuya had caught up with him. Sasuke, holding onto the ninja sword he had picked up in the cave, was wary of Teuya's movements. Teuya, who had regained her mobility, had far more chakra than Sasuke, yet she didn't even glance at him and ran right past him. Sasuke, who was still running away, was also a little confused, but he didn't think much of it and continued to run with all his might. It's easy to guess that Teuya was thinking of running away. The last thing she saw before she lost consciousness was Kidamaru being killed. Of the original 5 sound ninja, she was the only one left, and she was no longer of much value. This made her, who was not particularly loyal to Orochimaru to begin with, want to escape. It's over, it's over. Am I going to die here right after I was born?" The strange bird also became a little panicked. That purple snake, could it be the one from Dragon Cave that the elders were talking about? "Who did you mess with, kid?" Sasuke remained silent. Only now did he learn the name of this strange bird. Tanlang, a name as strange as the names of other swift-moving birds. "It's Teuya, she's still alive." Kabuto hadn't expected Teuya to run out and pointed at the fleeing Teuya. "Kill this piece of trash." Orochimaru only had eyes for Sasuke. He didn't care about the lives of anyone else. Teuya, who was on the run, also gave a bitter laugh upon hearing Orochimaru's words. Even tools have feelings, and in Orochimaru's eyes, she was not even as good as a tool. She couldn't help but feel a little sad. Sasuke's forehead veins were bulging. He had never risked his life like this since graduating from the Ninja Academy, concentrating all the last bit of chakra he had in his body into his legs. The chakra transformed into lightning release stimulated Sasuke's leg muscles, instantly boosting his speed by 2 levels, directly surpassing Teuya. Teuya panicked when she saw Sasuke overtake her. As Manda's gaping maw drew closer, she used her last strength to enter Cursed Seal too. His skin turned grey, his hair grew longer, and bull horns grew back on it. He used a summoning beast to summon the angry demon that Sasuke had previously defeated. After numerous experiments, it was discovered that the angry demon possesses the ability to heal itself, but this takes a very long time. In its Cursed Seal II state, the current angry demon can only withstand the effects for a short period. The will to survive kept Teu from giving up. She would seize even the slightest chance of survival. Orochimaru looked at Teuya, who was still struggling, and didn't even bother to use the Cursed Seal to control her. Manda swallowed the demon whole, not caring at all about the effects of eating this experimental subject. A futile resistance. Kabuto chuckled as he looked at Teuya, who had already been swallowed by Manda. This time, the matter was definitely settled. "Kid, now that things have come to this, I have no choice but to try that one move," Tanlang said, seeing that Doyu hadn't had any time to stall. "You still have a way." Even Sasuke wanted to strangle this damn bird now. How could it be so unreliable compared to the other two? "I didn't know it would come to this. I'm not sure if this method will work. After all, I haven't learned this technique yet," Greedy Wolf said with dissatisfaction. To be honest, this was the first time it had been summoned by spirits, and it had already done its best. Whatever the method, let's use it now. Sasuke had no other choice but to rely on Tanlang. After hearing this, Tanlang took a deep breath, then stopped flying and began to retch. Seeing that Tanlang had stopped, Sasuke had no choice but to stop as well, his eyes warily fixed on Manda, who was now right in front of him. At Orochimaru's signal, Manda stopped its movements. Orochimaru, seeing Sasuke again, smiled and said, "Well, Sasuke-kun, have you given up struggling?" After gagging for a while, Tanlang finally vomited something, a very small scroll. It's a mystery how it managed to stuff it into its stomach. Orochimaru realized that his opponent had another trick up his sleeve and immediately commanded Manda to attack Sasuke. As long as Sasuke didn't die, he had a way to revive him. In the ninja world, besides Tsunade, Orochimaru was quite confident in his medical skills. Just wait to die. Reverse summoning technique, Greedy Wolf roared, unfurling the scroll and unleashing the ninjutsu. Clang! Manda felt as if he had crashed into a mountain, and his head began to spin. The huge tremor almost caused Kabuto to fall off Manda. A large amount of dust was kicked up on the battlefield, making it impossible to see what Tanlang had summoned. Orochimaru stared uncertainly at the dust, when a voice that greatly displeased him came from inside, causing his expression to change. Orochimaru, do you want to die? Chapter 86, Extinguishing Fire. Kakashi, what do you want from me? Yilan asked, puzzled, as Kakashi brought him to the training ground. Yilan, I have some questions I'd like to ask you. Kakashi's back was to Yilan, so his expression was not visible. What's up? Are your eyes all right? Kakashi asked a seemingly unrelated question, but Yilan's expression turned serious. Kakashi, could it be? Too many things have happened in the village recently, with one powerful ninja after another emerging, prompting Kakashi, who had been somewhat lax in his training, to intensify his efforts. Recently, he discovered that his Sharingan had undergone new changes, and Yilan was the only person in the village who knew the most about the Sharingan. Originally, Kakashi, being cautious by nature, would not easily reveal his trump card, but Sasuke's presence made their relationship more amicable. He had witnessed Yilan activate Susanoo and knew that Yilan possessed Sharingan with more than 3 tomo, which is why he sought out Yilan to inquire. My eyes. Yilan directly raised one hand to interrupt Kakashi. Sorry, it seems there are some things I need to tell you when I get back. Yilan's eyes had already transformed into the Sharingan, and he could sense that the Thunderbird clan was communicating with him. Summoning techniques are more accurately described as contracts between ninjas and their summoned beasts. Not only do ninjas need their assistance, but sometimes the summoned beasts also need the ninjas' support. When Yilan first signed the contract with the Thunder Falcon, he gave the scroll that allowed him to communicate with the Thunderbird clan. However, it is unknown who reversed the process of communicating with him. Before Kakashi could say anything more, Yilan's figure vanished in a puff of smoke. Shadow clone. No, there's a spatial fluctuation. Space-time ninjutsu. Oh, what? Kakashi didn't expect things to be so urgent. Yilan suddenly disappeared from the spot. What happened? Kakashi saw that Yilan had activated his Sharingan without even calling him, so the matter must be very urgent. Thinking of Sasuke, who had already gone out on a mission, he couldn't help but worry. As soon as he was summoned by spirit, Yilan saw a gaping, blood-red maw. The Sharingan in his pupils transformed into a cross shape, and the black Susanoo skeleton condensed on his body like flames. The Susanoo that condensed blocked Manda's attack with both hands. With his Sharingan, Yilan understood what was going on. Sasuke was right behind him, and Orochimaru, whom he hadn't seen in a long time, was right in front of him. Unexpectedly, Orochimaru did not give up after his warning and attacked Sasuke. Moreover, the timing was perfect, just when Sasuke was out of the village alone on a mission. It is hard to believe that Orochimaru did not have information. Orochimaru, do you want to die? As the dust settled, Orochimaru was surprised to see Yilan here. Of course, he knew about the reverse summoning technique, but because he was somewhat wary of Rucha Cave, he had not handed over the scroll for summoning himself. Therefore, the only high-level summoning beast he could summon from Rucha Cave was the wicked Manda. Based on his understanding of Yilan, how could he trust such an unheard-of spirit beast so much? It would be very troublesome if the other party harbored malicious intent and summoned him to a dangerous place. Yi Lankan, it's been a long time. Since you're here too, I won't disturb your reunion with Sasuke-kun. As Orochimaru prepared to leave with Kabuto, he knew he was no match for Yilan, and always valuing his life, made a decisive decision to retreat. Oh, actually, I'd also like to have a chat with you, Orochimaru. There's a big problem with the impure world reincarnation technique you gave me. Yilan really wanted to talk to Orochimaru. The value of the impure world reincarnation technique was too great, and he had to get his hands on it no matter what. Impure world reincarnation. I didn't expect Lord Yelan to be so obsessed with this technique. I just didn't bring it with me. We'll talk about it another time. Orochimaru turned to Manda and said, Manda, stop him. Manda shook its head, finally recovering. Seeing the Susanoo rising from Yilan's body, it knew this guy was not easy to deal with, and spoke. Double. No, triple. This time you have to give me 3 times the offerings. All right, I agree. Orochimaru didn't seem to care about making a promise. Manda had never fought Yilan and didn't know Yilan's true strength. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have agreed. As long as he can escape, Orochimaru, who controls a ninja village, has plenty of men. Seeing that Orochimaru was trying to escape, Yilan first checked Sasuke's physical condition, then gathered a ball of chakra in his hand and directly released the seal that Kabuto had previously cast, ensuring that Sasuke could move. Summon the 7 kills to stop Orochimaru. Don't go too far. I'll be there soon. Yilan, it's been so long. I never thought I actually succeeded. Tan Lang excitedly flew to Yilan's side. You are. Tan Lang. It's no wonder Yilan didn't recognize it. Tan Lang was just born when Yilan left the island, and he had only met it once. That's right. I truly deserve to be called the genius of my clan. I succeeded in reverse spiritual communication in one go. I was worried that I wouldn't succeed, otherwise I would have died on my first attempt. Greedy Wolf patted his belly with his wings in a somewhat anthropomorphic way. Then I'll have to trouble you with this next step, Yilan said solemnly. His current strength was inseparable from the Swift Falcon clan. I understand. Spirit communication. Once Sasuke regained his strength, he immediately summoned the 7 killers. The 7 killers didn't exchange pleasantries with Yilan. After hearing Sasuke's thoughts, they carried him directly towards Orochimaru. Manda didn't try to stop Sasuke. He was already struggling enough against Yilan alone, and this guy looked difficult to deal with, let alone with a giant bird added to the mix. Orochimaru only said that he wanted to stop Yilan, not that he wanted to stop Sasuke. He had his reasons for letting them go, but those big birds seemed somewhat familiar to him. After Sasuke left, Manda stopped thinking and launched an attack on Yelan. It was not proficient in ninjutsu, and relied mostly on its huge body and the poison it carried to fight. The giant snake tail brought up a gust of wind and launched an attack on Yilan's Susanoo. Yilan did not choose to use Susanoo to take the attack head-on. He had to withstand the attack to protect Sasuke, but now he directly released Susanoo. He needed to conserve his eye power to deal with Manda. The attacks of the myriad snakes were completely ineffective against Yilan's speed, but they did manage to knock down many trees on the mountain. The area where the two sides fought gradually turned into a flat plain, and the once dense jungle was no more. Even the relentless Manda couldn't keep up. Its enormous body required an astonishing amount of stamina, and it soon began to pant. It decided to stall for a little longer before dispelling the summoning. How could Yilan let this opportunity slip by? He jumped into the air and began to form hand seals. Spiritual communication technique, Po Jun. A piercing scream shattered the silence, making people instinctively cover their ears. Upon seeing Po Jun's figure, she seemed to recall something. It vaguely remembered that the white snake immortal had mentioned several ancient spirit beasts that had existed before. Over the course of history, many of them either became extinct or went into seclusion. It never expected that it would encounter such a being again. Wunsch sensed something was wrong and wanted to dispel the summoning, but Podjun wouldn't give it that chance. With a flap of its wings, a massive net of lightning enveloped the myriad snakes. Their enormous bodies became a burden, unable to dodge, and their entire bodies were paralyzed, unable to move an inch. The monstrous snake had lost control of its body, and its enormous head fell directly to the ground with a loud thud. Break the army! Yilan was ready at this moment, and the power of Bidian Yuzhong had been quietly activated. Page 43. Po Jun responded with a scream, and with the support of natural energy, a hurricane enveloped the entire body of Wonshi. Countless wind blades cut through Wonshi's originally tough skin, and Wonshi instantly turned into a bloody mess. It wasn't over yet. Yilan formed the Wu seal with his hands and placed it in front of his mouth. A fireball even larger than how Huo Meek appeared in the sky. As the fireball merged with the hurricane, it instantly transformed into a raging storm of flames. The monstrous snake let out a miserable cry, now completely helpless and unable to even dispel the summoning. Boom! The burning flames exploded again, rising higher and higher, and the storm could be seen even from several kilometers away. This is a ninjutsu developed by Yilan, specifically to deal with large summoned beasts or tailed beasts. Fire release, Great Fire Annihilation. Chapter 87, Liu Sha. The flames died down, and Manda's body was charred black, its mouth still open, emitting white smoke. This summoning beast that had made Orochimaru famous throughout the ninja world had died here. Yilan, standing on Po Jun's back, was about to give chase, but Po Jun didn't act immediately, it said. It seems there's still something undigested inside that snake. Yilan was startled, recalling the conversation between Manda and Orochimaru about using people as sacrifices. Feeling disgusted, he drew his ninja sword and swung it at Manda's corpse. Several wind blades formed in the air and rushed straight at Wonch. If it had been attacked directly like this before, it would not have been able to harm Wonch. Now, Wonch's body was extremely fragile, and the wind blades cut its corpse into several pieces as easily as cutting tofu. Whether the person inside can survive depends on their survival instinct. Yilan doesn't have time to waste on that. Po Jun glanced at the corpse of Manda, snorted softly, and sped up towards Orochimaru. The formation of 10,000 snakes. Orochimaru couldn't use ninjutsu that required hand seals, but fortunately, most of the snake-based ninjutsu he was proficient in didn't require hand seals. A group of giant snakes, each with a sword in its mouth, attacked Sasuke's direction. Sasuke! Lightning crackled from both Kai-Sha and Sasuke's bodies, their entire forms transforming into a ball of lightning as they charged directly at the swarm of snakes. Every snake that touched Kaishar's body was instantly electrocuted and charred. The 10,000 snake formation was utterly ineffective in stopping them. A deafening roar suddenly erupted behind Sasuke, and a massive burst of flames shot straight into the sky. The enormous sound caused Orochimaru and the others to turn their heads in surprise. Uchiha Yelan. Orochimaru's face turned cold. He understood that Manda was probably in grave danger. Although Manda was not easy to use, it was still an asset. Moreover, after Manda's death, his already fragile relationship with Rucha Cave might become even worse. Kabuto, use that. Orochimaru knew he really couldn't hold back this time, so he commanded Kabuto beside him. Understood. Kabuto knew what Orochimaru was going to use. Since he could no longer use his hands, Orochimaru had all the ninjutsu that required hand seals imprinted on his arms. Whenever needed, he would have Kabuto activate them. That's how Manda was summoned. He rolled up Orochimaru's sleeve, revealing his arm covered in various patterns. He then smeared a little of Orochimaru's blood onto the patterns. Summoning techniques in pure world reincarnation. A coffin emerged from the ground with the character 4 written on it. Sasuke and Shichisatsu stopped their pursuit. Orochimaru had used this technique to kill Hiruzen Sarutobi during the Chunin exams. The first and second Hokage were the ones who were resurrected using Edo Tensei. It's a pity we can't go back together, Sasuke-kun. Consider this a gift from me, to you and Yelan-kun. It took me a lot of effort to kill this guy back then. Orochimaru gave a sinister laugh, and then turned and left with Kabuto. Wait, Sasuke shouted. At that moment, the coffin lid opened, and a man with black eye circles and short red hair walked out. Orochimaru, you bastard! Rasa was furious with Orochimaru. He had finally decided to go all in with Sunagakure, but Orochimaru turned around and betrayed him with Kimimaro. At close range, he couldn't even use his skills and caught off guard. He died after only a few struggles. He might as well die, but the worst part was being dragged out to do manual labor. Who is this guy? Sasuke has never seen Rasa before, so the guy Orochimaru might be using as a trump card is definitely not easy to deal with. Sasuke remembered the task Yelan had given him, and without much hesitation, he swung his ninja sword and stabbed at Rasa. Rasa stood motionless with his arms crossed, a cloud of golden sand blocking Sasuke's attack. Then golden sand continued to surge up from the ground, trying to surround Sasuke. Sasuke was startled, but fortunately, the 7 killers' claws grabbed Sasuke's back and lifted him up, escaping danger. Out of the corner of his eye, Rasa saw Sasuke's Sharingan with 3 Tomo. Was he from the Uchiha clan? He had heard that there was only one child left in the clan, but he hadn't expected him to grow up to this extent. He looked even younger than Gaara. Rasa thought this way because Yelan had not yet become famous at that time, and Sunagakure only had Sasuke as information about the Uchiha clan. Sasuke didn't expect this person's ninjutsu to be so similar to Gaara's. It wasn't that it was much stronger than Gaara's. Both of them manipulated sand, but Gaara was now no match for Rasa. Kid, how is Sunagakure doing now? Who is the Kazekage now? Even though Rasa is already dead, it wouldn't be of much use for him to know these things, but he still couldn't help asking. Sasuke's ninja sword flashed with lightning, but he didn't answer Rasa's question. The sword extended with the lightning and stabbed directly at Rasa. At this moment, Sasuke used the Chidori sharp spear, a long-range attack technique developed by Chidori. Magnetic escape, plus a gold cube. Rasa condensed the gold dust into a cube, directly blocking Sasuke's attack. Then he continued to control the gold dust, forming a golden ocean that surged towards Sasuke and Shichisatsu like waves. Kaisha quickly raised his body, trying to break free from the control of the sand gold. Instantly, a cloud of gold dust formed beneath Luo Sha's feet, carrying him into the air. Several spears formed from the gold dust appeared around him, piercing towards Kaisha. Sasuke had no chance to fight back. He was only able to avoid injury thanks to the speed of the 7 killers. Looking around, Orochimaru had disappeared without a trace. Somewhat annoyed, Sasuke began to form hand seals, intending to use fire release to counterattack Rasa. Several fire dragons spewed from his mouth, hurtling towards Rasa, but they were all blocked by the gold sand. Rasa laughed contemptuously. This level of fire jutsu can't hurt me. Sasuke knew, of course, that he was doing all this just to activate a certain number. At this moment, a wisp of electricity appeared in his hand. He looked up at the sky. Yilan's previous fire jutsu, plus his own great fire dragon, was almost enough. Sasuke, you haven't mastered this technique at all. It will hurt you. Kaisha had already seen through the situation and quickly tried to persuade Sasuke to get up. A hint of madness flashed in Sasuke's eyes. He knew, of course, that this technique was just an idea of his at the moment, and he hadn't even perfected the specific practice. But he couldn't think about it too much at the moment. Thud! Just as Sasuke was about to unleash his trump card, a figure flashed across the sky and crashed into Rasa at an extremely fast speed. Luo Sha's expression changed. He barely managed to block the opponent's attack by using layers of golden sand. Upon closer inspection, he saw a boy with wispy bangs on his forehead, and the sharingen in his pupils surprised him even more. Who is this? The force emanating from the gold dust made him somewhat strained, realizing that the newcomer was not someone to be trifled with. This is only natural. If it were just Sasuke, Orochimaru would never have used Edo Tensei to resurrect Rasa. The only person Orochimaru really wanted to stop was Yoru. Sasuke stopped when he saw Yilan arrive. It would be irrational to use this ninjutsu again. The moment Yilan saw the gold dust in the distance, he knew Sasuke was in trouble. He rushed over as fast as he could, and after one strike, he and Rasa distanced themselves again and came to Sasuke's side. I'm tired, so I'll leave first. Kaisha knew that it would be all right without Yilan when it saw that Yilan had appeared. It had used up too much of its strength to dodge Luo Sha's attack, so it said a sentence and immediately cancelled the summoning. Sorry, I didn't keep up with Orochimaru, Sasuke said somewhat embarrassedly as he walked up to Yilan. It's all right. It's good enough if you survive the 4th Kazekage. As a Konoha Jonin, Yilan naturally knew who Rasa was. The 4th Kazekage. Sasuke looked at Rasa, a ninja with an ordinary appearance, and was surprised to find that the other party had such a great background. He felt much more at ease about how he was powerless against Rasa. Boy, who are you? I've never heard of an Uchiha in Konoha. Rasa landed slowly on the ground, still with his arms crossed, and said, It's normal that the Kazekage hasn't heard of me. You should have just died not long before I returned to Konoha. Yilan knew he couldn't catch up with Orochimaru, but he was somewhat surprised that Orochimaru had resurrected Rasa. What surprised him even more was that Rasa's strength was much greater than that of the 1st and 2nd Hokage, who had been resurrected. The strength of Hashirama Senju and Tobirama Senju is well recorded in the Uchiha clan's archives, and the strength they displayed in the Chunin exams was less than 1/10 of their peak. Rasa's performance showed that he used most of his strength from his previous life, indicating that Orochimaru's continuous refinement has made this technique more and more perfect. What do you mean? I just died and you came back. Even if it's true, you can't say it like that. You can only say that you're a true Uchiha. Rasa suppressed his anger. As the Kazekage, he still had that much self-control. How is Sunagakure doing now? Who is the current Keizkage? As long as he could buy time, Orochimaru would try to lift the restrictions on Rasa as much as possible, so he wouldn't mind if the two of them chatted for a whole day. Luo Shah would ask questions whenever he had the chance. He could tell that Yilan knew far more than Sasuke, that clueless guy, so he asked about something he was interested in. Chapter 80, 8 Wind Shadow. As for Sunagakure, it can only be said that your plan with Orochimaru has failed. Sunagakure has surrendered unconditionally, and now the two countries are allies. Yilan didn't take direct action. Catching up with Orochimaru was hopeless, so he decided to try to get some useful information from Rasa, since sometimes the dead know more than the living. So it really failed. Rasa knew that Sunagakure would have no chance of winning after his death, but a sliver of hope remained in his heart. What if Gaara succeeded? In a way, it can be considered a success. The third Hokage died on the spot, and now the Hokage is Lady Tsunade. As for Sunagakure, I'm sorry, I haven't heard of anyone succeeding the title of Keizkage. Yilan's words filled Luo Shah with sorrow. The vast Sunagakure couldn't even choose a Keizkage. Unconditional surrender. Alliance. It sounded nice, but in reality, they had been reduced to becoming vassals of Konoha. Actually, I wanted to ask Lord Keizkage, are you familiar with the impure world reincarnation technique? Yilan spoke rather politely, as this technique was extremely important to him. HMPH, so you also want to toy with the souls of the dead? Rasa was somewhat dissatisfied. The two Uchiha on the other side were wearing Konoha headbands, which meant they were official Konoha ninjas. He didn't expect them to have other intentions. Researching this kind of technique was taboo in any village. Lord Keizkage, you must have misunderstood me. I only wanted to obtain this technique to understand the truth behind the annihilation of the Uchiha clan. Yi Lan's sharing and flashed with an unusual light. To get others to tell you the truth, you also need to be sincere yourself. Yi Lan didn't mind revealing his purpose to Luo Shah, since he was a dead man anyway. The Uchiha clan. The annihilation of the Uchiha clan shocked the entire ninja world. No one from other villages believed Konoha's explanation. No matter how strong Itachi was, he was only 13 years old. It was impossible for him to have silently slaughtered the entire clan under Konoha's nose. These are all speculations by Rasa, who, as an outsider, certainly doesn't know the specifics. And Yi Lan's purpose in wanting to master the impure world reincarnation is obvious. You want to resurrect the spirits of the Uchiha clan using the impure world reincarnation technique. Rasa was startled by Yi Lan's audacious idea. If the truth really was related to Konoha, what would this Uchiha man wearing a Konoha headband do? That's right. Only the victims know the details of what happened, and they are the easiest to find the real culprit, Yi Lan added. Heh, Lord Yelan, I didn't expect you to think like this. Luo Shah lowered his arms from his chest, and his tone changed. Orochimaru. Yi Lan realized that Orochimaru was controlling Rasa to speak. That's right, it's really embarrassing. I never thought I'd have to run away every time I meet you. Orochimaru joked about himself without a care in the world. Someone like him, who had already disregarded worldly affairs, wouldn't care too much about his reputation. Do you have something on your mind now that you're speaking up? Yi Lankan, your mind should not be confined by a clan or a village. If you are too obsessed with the Uchiha clan, you will betray Konoha sooner or later. Am I right? Orochimaru had seen through Yi Lan's true nature. He knew exactly what the Konoha leadership was like. Although he wasn't in the village when the Uchiha clan was destroyed, he was certain that Danzo was involved, and that Danzo might have done even worse things, though they didn't know it yet. I was born into the Uchiha clan, and the Uchiha clan has indeed treated me well. No matter what choices I make in the future, I must investigate this matter thoroughly. Having been reincarnated, Yila knew very well what kind of clan the Uchiha were: proud, arrogant, and full of selfish people. But that didn't stop the Uchiha from having given him warmth back then. The Uchiha clan may have done something that led to their annihilation, but it shouldn't have warranted the extermination of the entire clan. What wrong did those ordinary clan members, who didn't even have chakra, commit? They were absolutely unaware of the situation. Moreover, Shisui was very biased towards Konoha back then, yet they couldn't even find their bodies. If Yilan remains unmoved even after all this, then he has truly failed those sharing and eyes. In that case, I'll give you a big gift. The fourth Kazegage can now unleash almost half of his former strength. If you defeat him, you can take him with you. It must be just one step away. If there are successful cases, we should be able to uncover the secret of the impure world reincarnation soon. Orochimaru wasn't being kind. He genuinely wanted to see what Yilan would do to Konoha if he found out the truth, and whether Sasuke would follow him after he left Konoha. Page 44. Where will they go in the vast ninja world? What if this act of kindness leads them to join him later? Orochimaru would definitely welcome them with open arms. Orochimaru, Rasa regained his senses, his face extremely grim. He, the Kazegage, had become a commodity to be traded. This is a disgrace. Looking at Yilan's young age, how could Orochimaru be sure that Yilan could beat him? He himself could not fully exert his strength, but his advantages were that he had unlimited chakra and immortality. He felt that he was being looked down upon. Yilan had no intention of continuing the conversation with Luo Sha. Regardless of Orochimaru's motives, the outcome was acceptable to her. Yilan was a little annoyed that he hadn't killed the guy. This rascal had too many ways to save his life, and he was incredibly fast at slipping away. If you weren't careful, he would have gotten away. Breaking army. Po Jun immediately understood Yilan's thoughts and decisively flew towards Luo Sha. The sharp blades generated in the air struck Jin Sha, who tried to stop him. Yilan was unstoppable and was about to reach Luo Sha in the blink of an eye. Magnetic escape, golden sand's waves. A large mass of golden sand gathered in front of Luo Sha, its momentum overwhelming, like a giant wave that directly engulfed Po Jun's body. Uchiha clan brat, don't underestimate the Kazegage. Rasa felt that his biggest mistake in life was allying with Orochimaru and then being betrayed by him. Now no one, no matter how small, dares to offend him. After all, he was the one who sealed the one-tailed beast multiple times, and the title of Kazegage was well-deserved. Po Jun stopped advancing, intending to break through from above the gold sand. Upon seeing this, Luo Sha immediately controlled the gold sand, causing it to condense into long, thin spikes in the sand of the waves, which, like growing bamboo shoots, pierced towards Po Jun. Charge! Yilan directly commanded Po Jun to rush towards the waves of golden sand. Without any hesitation, Po Jun pounced forward, his entire body instantly submerged in the sand. HMPH, Uchiha clan. Rasa thought he had succeeded when he saw that his attack had hit, but then his expression changed and he suddenly dodged to the side. Brush. It was too late. A black giant sword emerged from the gold dust and severed the left half of Rasa's body. This is. Rasa felt no pain. As a reanimated being, his body was already beginning to repair itself, and his dodge just now was merely an instinct. The scene before him, however, put him under pressure. The Black Susanoo had broken through the gold dust, and Yilan stood before Rasa like a demon god, his sharing and eyes now shaped like a cross. Orochimaru has left, so there's no need to maintain his eye power now. Yilan just wants to finish this quickly, but he's a little troubled by the fact that Russ's body is almost fully repaired. Chapter 89, Sealing. The Mangekai Usheringen. I didn't expect you to have such strength at such a young age. The last Uchiha clan member who was famous in the ninja world was Shisui of the body flicker technique. Russa was certainly aware of the existence of the kaleidoscope, but he didn't know that Yelan was actually more famous than Shisui was back then. If he knew that the person promoting Yelan's reputation was from Sunagakure, would he be angry? Shisui is my brother, Yelan said expressionlessly. The last time he saw Shisui was when he left the village for the first time to carry out an S-rank mission. Even though he had learned the impure world reincarnation technique, he could no longer see Shisui. As expected, the Uchiha clan has always been a cradle of geniuses, but as the Kazekage, I'm not so easily defeated. Russa raised his hands, and all the gold dust began to rise, burying Susanoo back in. The enhanced gold dust slowed down the speed, but its greater weight prevented Yilan from escaping easily. Alluvial gold burial. This technique is capable of sealing even the one-tailed beast. The entire mountaintop was submerged in golden sand. Sasyuk had already left the area, his sharing and constantly observing the two sides in battle. Po Jun's figure flew directly out of the gold dust, emitting a bright eagle cry, which the slowed-down gold dust could not stop. This strange summoned beast is a bit troublesome. Luo Sha stretched out a hand, and the spears formed by the sand gold kept interfering with Po Jun, preventing it from using its moves. It could only watch helplessly as Yilan's Susanoo was submerged by the sand gold. The ordeal of the gold dust didn't end there. Under Russa's control, the gold dust was continuously rotated, compressed, and squeezed until it finally exploded with a tremendous sound. Luo Sha was not happy after the sand gold burial had been performed. He felt it had gone too smoothly. The move was very powerful, but he felt it was too easy to defeat Yilan. A technique that relies on sealing. Ever since Yilan encountered the heavenly Tao and was hit by the planetary devastation, he had been thinking about how to resolve the situation. Directly using Susanoo to withstand, it was definitely not an option, unless his Susanoo evolved again. So Yilan came up with a plan. He channeled natural energy into Susanoo and shrunk it as much as possible. Indeed, for the same mass, the smaller the volume, the greater the density. He wanted to maximize Susanoo's defense. Susanoo's defense is considered indestructible by ordinary ninjas, but it is only slightly stronger than that of an ordinary person when faced with a sealing technique of this level. Yilan shrunk Susanoo to less than 1/5 of its original size, but its quality increased several times over, allowing it to withstand the sand gold burial attack head-on. Cracks had appeared on the skeleton, and Susanoo's armor was damaged, with strands of gold dust seeping in through the gaps. But the outline of the entire body remained, and he withstood the attack. The sand gold burial is no match for the Earth explosion star, and Luo Sha's strength is not as great as it was in life. Yet Yilan smiled, which means his idea was correct. The right eye's direct attack was activated. Every technique has a weakness, and Yilan, surrounded by gold dust, instantly found a weak point. Baotian Yuzhong. Flames erupted on Susanoo, and with the support of natural energy and Koto Matsukuni, Susanoo began to move, its eyes beneath the Susanoo mask emitting a golden light. How is this possible? Luo Sha couldn't believe that he could still move while trapped in the sand gold burial. Others would dodge and use techniques to break through moves, but Yilan could just take it all in. Luo Sha squatted down and increased his control over the gold dust with both hands, burying all the gold dust towards Yilan's location. But the commotion inside grew louder and louder, and finally, with a loud bang, Susanu's greatsword shattered the gold dust. Russa never imagined that the gold dust burial would be broken so brutally. The black Susanu was badly damaged, with only the skeleton remaining in many places. Yilan, who was inside, felt no discomfort except for some excessive consumption of her pupil power. After stepping out of the spot where the gold dust was buried, Yilan released Susanu. He also felt a little dazed. It was the first time he had used up so much of his eye power, and even with the natural energy nourishing his eyes, he still felt a stinging pain. However, the matter was not over yet. Seeing that Yi Lan was unharmed, Po Jun also launched an attack on Luo Sha, with wind blades and lightning nets smashing directly at his head. Luo Sha, who was somewhat shocked by Yi Lan's performance, was caught off guard by Po Jun's attack and suddenly became flustered. While it's true that the impure world reincarnation technique grants unlimited chakra and an immortal body, Orochimaru didn't fully utilize its power. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said that Russa only possessed most of his previous strength. These things require time to recover, and now is precisely the time when he is at his weakest. Yilan seized the opportunity and instantly appeared next to Luo Sha. Luo Sha is a typical ninja who is like a turret. Once you get close, he will lose most of his strength. Luo Sha knew something was wrong. His hand, which was trying to control the sand gold, was severed by Yi Lan in an instant. Although the impure earth body could be restored, it was too late. Yi Lan wouldn't give Luo Sha another chance. She quickly formed several hand seals and slapped them directly onto Luo Sha's body. Physical attacks were useless against Edo Tensei and would only wear him down. Having already studied Edo Tensei, Yilan naturally knew how to deal with it. Thanks to the sealing scroll given by Tsunade, Yilan created an Edo Tensei seal to counter this technique when he experimented with it. As long as he gets close, he can seal the target of the Edo Tensei. However, there is a prerequisite for using this technique. You must be very close to the opponent, and the opponent's strength cannot be far greater than your own. Otherwise, you will not be able to suppress the chakra in the Edo Tensei body. Sealing technique. I didn't expect you to use this kind of ninjutsu. The light in Luo Sha's eyes gradually faded. This body had lost its soul and become a true corpse. When Luo Sha disappeared, Yilan seemed to realize something. The impure world reincarnation experiments he had conducted only had the appearance but no consciousness. What was missing was the soul of the dead, and the soul of the dead could not return to the body. It's over, Sasuke walked to Yilan's side. This mission involved too many things. Orochimaru's ambush was very unusual, but there was something else that concerned him even more. Yilan, will you leave Konoha in the future? Yilan put away the scroll that sealed Russa. He still needed to go back and study the conjecture about the impure world reincarnation. After hearing Sasuke's words, his movements visibly paused. Po Jun glanced at the two of them, sighed, and without saying hello, directly dispelled the spiritual connection. Sasuke, sometimes you shouldn't ask me. Yilan looked tired. His Sharingan had turned back to its original black color, and the after-effects of the Mangekaiwu Sharingan had suddenly kicked in. Just now it was just a stinging pain, but now it felt like being pricked with needles. Yilan was only enduring the pain as she spoke to Sasuke with some difficulty. Any choice I make depends on the choices others make. Sasuke didn't understand what Yilan was saying. Whether or not to leave Konoha was up to Yilan himself, so why would he say that? Moreover, saying leave is just a euphemism. Any ninja in Konoha who leaves the village without permission is a rogue ninja. Sasuke, who already has bonds with the village, will have to make a decision. All right, let's go back. Yilan had just taken a few steps when she stumbled and almost fell, her vision already feeling a little blurry. At this moment, Yilan clearly felt someone help him up and looked to see Sasyuk beside him. "You should rest properly." Sasyuk saw Yilan's condition and went to his side to help him up. "I need to get some rest. There's still a lot to do when we get back." Yilan wasn't sure what choice Sasyuk would make at first, so she didn't want to expose her weakness in front of him. Now she had a better idea of what was going on. Yilan looked towards Konoha. There were still many scores to settle when he got back. Now he needed to figure out why Sasyuk had been attacked and who was responsible. He hadn't had a chance to ask Sasyuk before, so he could take this opportunity to get to the bottom of it. Chapter 90, Arrangement. Kakashi was quite concerned about Yilan's departure. He searched for a day or two, turning over every corner of the village, but couldn't find him. After thinking about it, he decided it would be better to tell Tsunade about it. As he approached the door of Tsunade's office, he heard a loud slam on the table, indicating that Tsunade was in a very bad mood. "Kakashi, what is it?" Tsunade was a little angry, but she still sensed someone at the door. After finding out it was Kakashi, she let him in. "Am I coming at a bad time?" Kakashi walked into the office with some trepidation. He had genuine respect for Tsunade, but he was still a little guilty about her temper. "Don't worry about it. Just tell me what you want to see me about." Tsunade seemed somewhat absent-minded, her eyes appearing unfocused. "Well, there were some unexpected circumstances." Kakashi told Tsunade about Yilan's sudden disappearance. The sudden disappearance of a Jonin in Konoha was a very serious matter, and the Hokage should be informed. "You mean it disappeared suddenly like a shadow clone?" Tsunade's eyes regained focus as she stared at Kakashi. "That's right, but I sensed some spatial fluctuations. It felt like something was being teleported away, and then disappeared. I searched the whole village, but couldn't find him." Kakashi's perception of space has improved significantly. He didn't have such a keen sense of space before. "It's a reverse summoning technique." Tsunade, with her knowledge, immediately recognized it, her eyes flickering with uncertainty. Reverse summoning technique. Kakashi had only heard of it before, and this was the first time he had seen such a technique. He didn't react for a moment, but then he remembered Yilan's prepared actions, and everything made sense. "I think I know where he is." Tsunade took out a piece of paper from the drawer. At that moment, a message from Sasyuk's ANBU team had just arrived in Konoha and been deciphered. Tsunade had been hesitant about whether to let Kakashi know about this, but after hearing about Yilan's actions, she felt a little relieved. "This is..." Kakashi took the letter and read it quickly. By the end, even the usually calm Kakashi's expression turned somewhat cold. "Orochimaru, he still hasn't given up. I really don't know why he's so obsessed with the Sharingan. He's such an unpredictable person." Tsunade no longer felt any affection for her old classmate. Even though Orochimaru killed the third Hokage, she didn't feel any disgust. She just didn't quite understand his actions. The place where Yilan reversed his summoning. Kakashi finally understood why Tsunade said she knew where Yilan had gone. This is probably a backup plan that Yilan left for Sasyuk. Moreover, Orochimaru is not in good condition right now, and I estimate that the two of them will return to the village soon. Although Tsunade said this, there was no happy expression on her face. That puts my mind at ease. Kakashi, unaware of the danger, breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing that his student and friend were all right. "Kakashi!" Kakashi was about to take his leave when Tsunade called out to him, her face somewhat gloomy. Page 45. This matter won't end so simply. The timing of Sasyuk's attack is too coincidental. Yilan isn't stupid. Tsunade's face was gloomy. In fact, she could guess who would do such a thing. When she sent Mitokado Hamura to Root, It was completely useless. Danzo had completely sidelined him. She thought Danzo would behave himself after the last conflict, but she didn't expect him to collude with Orochimaru again. You mean? Kakashi's expression froze for a moment, and with his intelligence, he understood what was going on. Sai, the task of appeasing them is now in your hands. Tsunade didn't say anything more. In fact, she didn't have a good solution either. Not to mention that there was no factual evidence. Even if there were, Danzo would never admit it with his shameless style. A few days later, A and the others returned to the village. They first reported to the Hokage that they had encountered Orochimaru and his group and asked Tsunade for help. Tsunade told them directly about Yilan's actions at the time, which relieved Antelope and Grey Wolf. The most famous ninja in Konoha right now is Yilan. Whether for better or worse, his strength is undeniable, which made the somewhat guilty Antelope's brows relax. Upon hearing this information, Jia, whose body was somewhat stiff, was at a loss. Tsunade gave him a meaningful look, but didn't say anything more, and simply gave them 2 days off. Lord Danzo, Korin, without even changing out of his Ambu uniform, went straight to the route base and hurriedly met with Danzo. Have you completed the task I assigned you? Danzo asked A, sitting on a high chair and looking down at him. Lord Danzo, everything was going smoothly until I heard that Uchiha Yoran also rushed over. Even if I had low emotional intelligence and couldn't express his feelings, he felt apprehensive at this moment. How could it be that Uchiha Yelan was still in the village a few days ago? Even if he rushed there, Sasuke would have been taken away by Orochimaru long ago. Danzo muttered to himself in a very low voice. Finally, he realized that he hadn't seen Yilan in the village for several days, and he didn't have any missions to go out recently. Danzo himself knew that there were all sorts of incredible secret techniques in the ninja world, such as the fourth Hokage's flying thunder god technique, which could arrive in an instant even if the ninja was thousands of miles away. If Tsunade really bestowed the flying thunder god technique upon Yilan, given his Sharingan's dynamic vision and already excellent reflexes, it wouldn't be impossible for him to learn it. After we reported to Lady Tsunade, she said it was a reverse summoning technique. Before Danzo could even begin to ponder, I gave the answer directly. Reverse summoning technique. Danzo's face instantly turned ugly. If that were the case, Sasuke would be completely unharmed. No matter how much Danzo disliked Yilan, he was well aware of Yilan's strength and also knew what injuries Orochimaru had suffered. Orochimaru's only chance of victory right now is to fight to the death, but that's the least likely thing to happen. Having worked with Orochimaru for many years, he knew all too well what kind of temper Orochimaru had. You mean Tsunade told you directly? Danzo asked a seemingly unrelated question at this moment. That's right, they told us as soon as we got back and reported to Lady Tsunade, I said truthfully. I understand. Danzo seemed completely unfazed, pointing to his fingernail with his cane. Let Ryoma take you to rest for a while. You must be tired from the journey. A root with purple markings on its face appeared in front of Jia. It was wearing sunglasses, and the dark root seemed to have no effect on its vision. Lord Ryoma, there's no need to trouble yourself. I can go back by myself. Jia was afraid of Ryoma. This taciturn man was definitely the number 2 in route. As for Mitokado Himura, sorry, he's just a mascot in route now. Apart from the few clan ninjas he brings with him, no one will obey his orders. No, Lord Danzo is just concerned about you. I'll see you off, Ryoma said expressionlessly, leading the armored figure away from Danzo. From then on, Danzo had many more armor characters, but he never saw the one who went on missions with Sasuke again. Kakashi-senpai, why are you coming here every day these past few days if you have nothing else to do? Kotsu said, with a hint of complaint, as he placed a pile of documents on his workspace. Could it be that they're trying to steal our jobs? Even Izumo Kamatsuki, who had a bit of a sense of humor, blurted out. You too. It seems this kind of mission is still too easy for you, Kakashi said, rolling his dead fish eyes. You can tell you're waiting for someone. Kakashi-senpai, are you in a relationship? The two who were very familiar with Kakashi joked around. That's right, I was waiting for someone. Kakashi's words immediately piqued their curiosity to the maximum. They hadn't expected him to admit it so easily. But I'm waiting for two men. After their initial excitement was dashed, the two complained about Kakashi's boringness and then went back to their busy work. Bored, Kakashi pulled out a book, Jiraiya's latest work, which he had stayed up all night reading. Even the most captivating plot made Kakashi somewhat distracted, his gaze frequently drifting towards the village entrance. When two figures appeared at the village entrance, Kakashi's lazy expression vanished instantly, and he put the new book back into his ninja tool bag. Finally back. Chapter 91. Ninja is just my profession. Oh, your sudden disappearance really worried me. It seems you're all safe and sound. Kakashi saw Yilan and the other person and walked up to them with a smile. Kakashi-senpai was actually waiting for Jonin Yoran, but it seems Jonin Yoran has no record of leaving the village. Izumo Kamui pondered for a moment. He kept a record of every ninja who left the village, but he had no idea that Yoru had left. That's why the Hokage asked me to come and pick them up. Upon hearing Kakashi's explanation, Izumo and Kotsu stopped asking questions, as matters concerning the Hokage were beyond their concern. Yilan didn't speak. When he saw Kakashi, he knew that the village had pretty much figured out what was going on. I just haven't figured out what the Hokage is thinking yet. Your sudden disappearance really startled me. I had to ask Lady Tsune to figure out that it was a reverse summoning technique. Kakashi asked casually, did something happen that led you to summon Sasuke? Yilan followed Kakashi into the village, with Sasuke silently following behind him. I've run into a little trouble. Yilan's face remained calm and expressionless. Kakashi was surprised by Yilan's answer, and his gaze drifted into the distance. Orochimaru is considered a minor problem. You don't even care about the former Sannin. Yilan paused. Kakashi, I've always considered us friends. If you know something, don't pretend you don't. Kakashi sighed. Actually, he didn't want to either, but as a Konoha ninja, he had to consider Konoha's interests. His purpose in probing Yilan was to find out what Yilan was thinking at that moment. It's normal to feel angry when the result is unsatisfactory. What's truly worrying is when people don't even express their own thoughts. Trust Lady Tsunade, she's not like those people. That's all Kakashi could say now. Kakashi, I won't lie to you. Sasuke's attack this time was a direct betrayal by one of his teammates, who personally ambushed Sasuke when he was facing Orochimaru. Yilan already knew everything that had happened to Sasuke on the way, including the conversation between Kagami and Orochimaru. That person's code name in the Anbu is Kakashi. You should know better than me who he works for, right? Kakashi never expected Danzo to be so audacious. This was a blatant betrayal of his comrades, an act of selling out the village during a mission. He dared not imagine the consequences if Yilan hadn't arrived in time. What do you want to do? Kakashi's gaze had become somewhat serious. I'd like to know what Lady Tsunade will do, Yilan said calmly. Kakashi thought to himself that it was all right. Yilan's thoughts were much more mature, at least he hadn't lost his mind. Where the leaves dance, the fire will never die. Yilan said a phrase known to every ninja in Konoha village, which was the third Hokage's last words. This made Kakashi and Sasuke both look at Yilan, wondering what he meant by saying that. It's a pity that the starting point was good, but it has become a dogma for some people to control power. Kakashi was startled and warned in a low voice, "Uchiha Yelan, your idea is too dangerous." If Yelan showed anger, he would comfort her even if she felt aggrieved, and he wouldn't think things would escalate too much. However, Yelan's current thoughts were beyond his comprehension. Danger. Just telling the truth, Yelan chuckled. Don't tell me you believe in this kind of thing, Kakashi. When Orochimaru invaded the village, he saw everything clearly. Few of the major ninja clans actually contributed their efforts. The main battlefield was fought by a group of special jonin. If he hadn't managed to control the tail in time, the damage to the village would have been far greater than it is now. Yelan, as a Konoha ninja, you must understand that sometimes we are not in control of our own lives, and there are some things that are not for us ninjas to consider. Kakashi remained silent for a while before trying to comfort Yelan. A ninja? Yelan turned around and looked at Kakashi. Are you mistaken? I am first and foremost a human being, secondly a member of the Uchiha clan, and lastly a ninja. Being a ninja is just a profession to me. Kakashi was shocked by Yelan's words and broke out in a cold sweat. What exactly do you want to do? What should I do? I always observe what the other person does before making any decision. I won't say anything more. I'll go and report to Lady Tsunade first. Yelan ignored Kakashi, who was still standing there in a daze, and walked directly towards the Hokage building. In some ways, Kakashi is similar to the Uchiha clan. His father, comrades, and teachers died one after another in front of him, and he was powerless to do anything about it. He could only go with the flow, relying on Konoha as a stronghold, and remain silent and unexpressed. He drifted aimlessly through each day until he began leading Team 7, at which point Kakashi felt a glimmer of hope in his life. He devoted himself to his teachers' orphans and his comrades' clansmen, believing that his students would one day change the state of Konoha. However, Yelan's appearance shattered his perception. Yelan, who was only a teenager, was already famous in the ninja world. Unlike his own reputation on the battlefield, which was largely exaggerated, Yelan had real achievements. What chilled Kakashi the most was Yelan's thoughts. He could tell that Yelan was not someone who could be manipulated and harbored resentment over the extermination of his clan, and might have been secretly investigating all along. Kakashi was unsure what would happen then. Lady Tsunade's last hope rests on your shoulders. Kakashi looked at Yelan's back. Tsunade's task for him had completely failed. He couldn't win an argument with Yelan in terms of language. Unlike Sasuke, Yelan's thinking was not unpredictable. Kakashi-sensei. Sasuke looked at Kakashi. This was the first time he had called Kakashi-sensei that. Kakashi had been thinking about what Yelan had said, and that's when he realized that Sasuke hadn't left yet. Sasuke's address of teacher made him feel somewhat pleased, but he also had a bad feeling about it. I don't understand some of what Yelan said, but there's one thing I agree with. He and I are first and foremost members of the Uchiha clan, and secondly, ninjas of Konoha. Sasuke now has a deep bond with his comrades in Konoha. They study, eat, play, and do missions together. This has opened up the heart of the previously lonely Sasuke. He wasn't stupid. The fact that a certain high-ranking advisor in Konoha was frequently targeting him and Yelan was definitely due to historical conflicts left over from the Uchiha clan. In the end, Yelan would likely turn against the high-ranking officials, and Yelan, with his strength, certainly had the confidence to do so. What will Sasuke choose? Yelan never asked him, but as one of only 2 Uchiha in the village, he already had the answer in his heart. Sasuke, you. Kakashi suddenly felt that both Yelan and Sasuke had become very unfamiliar. Or perhaps I've never truly understood them. Page 46. Kakashi-sensei, thank you for your guidance. Sasuke didn't say anything more. He had always known about Kakashi's dedication to him. He used to take it for granted, but after joining the Anbu, he realized that teachers as responsible as Kakashi were extremely rare. He bowed deeply with gratitude and followed Yilan without saying another word. Chapter 92, The Crack, Part 1. Thump, thump, thump. Enter. Tsunade was busy reviewing materials and didn't even look up to say a word. The only sound in the office was the soft scratching of Tsunade's writing. After a long silence, Tsunade realized that someone had entered the office. She stopped writing and looked at the person who had arrived, then sighed. I already know about your encounter with Orochimaru. It seems you two are both all right. Sasuke was somewhat tempted and wanted to speak, but Yilan stopped him by shaking her head and then said, Lord Hokage, Sasuke's attack this time was not accidental. Danzo leaked Sasuke's information to Orochimaru. Yilan's words were devoid of any emotion. He simply recounted what Sasuke had told him, without embellishing a single word or action, as if it had nothing to do with him. So it was who directly ambushed Sasuke, and all of this was orchestrated by Danzo. After hearing this, Tsunade slammed her fist on the desk, sending the documents flying. I didn't expect that even if he went too far, he would still have some restraint. I didn't expect him to directly attack the people in the village. That's true. Tsunade thought Danzo had only leaked information, but she didn't expect him to actually let Kagami take action. If the village found out about his cooperation with a rogue ninja like Orochimaru, he would become a pariah. Shizune, Tsunade summoned Shizune directly. Have Danzo come to the Hokage's office immediately. I have something to ask him. Regardless of Tsunade's behavior at this moment, Yilan's face remained expressionless. He didn't look like a victim at all, but rather like a spectator watching everything unfold. Seeing Yilan's expression, Tsunade thought to herself that he was in a difficult situation, and then changed the subject to other things. Sasuke, how are your other two teammates? Are they getting along well? For someone like Sasuke, a member of the Anbu, Tsunade should only use his code name. It's very rare for her to address him by his full name like this. When Sasuke realized that Tsunade had asked him a question, he was initially surprised, but after looking at Yilan's expression and seeing that he remained unmoved, he finally spoke. Both Antelope and Grey Wolf are great teammates, and we cooperate very well. They are trustworthy comrades. Don't you mind abandoning them and going straight back to the village? Tsunade stared intently at Sasuke, trying to discern if there was anything unusual about his expression. How could that be? Even if they had stayed, there would only have been 2 more corpses. Given the circumstances, their best course of action was to return to Konoha as quickly as possible. Sasuke didn't hesitate at all and said directly that this was his true feeling. At that time, he really hoped that the 2 of them would leave as soon as possible. Teuya was swallowed alive by Manda right in front of him, and he didn't want to see that scene happen to his teammates. Seeing Sasuke's decisiveness, Tsunade couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Sasuke and Yelan's loyalty to Konoha was beyond question, and she must not become like her teacher. If you think the rest of your class are all pretty good, then your class should follow Tenzo from now on. That way I'll feel more at ease. After thinking it over, Tsunade decided to make arrangements for Sasuke first. As the captain of the Dark Guard, Tenzo is certainly not weak. With him around, even if they encounter any powerful opponents, Sasuke's safety can be guaranteed. Moreover, with Sasuke able to use the reverse summoning technique, as long as he doesn't do anything reckless, there won't be any more accidents. Sasuke was surprised that Tsunade would make such an arrangement. He had only met Tenzo a few times. After joining the Anbu, He had always heard that Tenzo's strength was unfathomable and that the level of secrecy was very high. He had only been in the Ambu for less than a year when he became teammates with the Ambu captain. This truly demonstrates Tsunede's trust in him and also shows a sense of compensation. Don't overthink it. I'm doing this to put Yilan at ease. I can't let him run over to save you every time. Tsunade still had a firm grip on Sasuke, a child, but what gave her a headache was Yilan, who was always reluctant to talk. Yilan, tell me, how did you feel about meeting Orochimaru this time? Without his hands, he's definitely no match for you, right? After Orochimaru lost both hands, he personally went to Tsunade to ask her to treat him, but Tsunade refused for whatever reason. Therefore, she was well aware that Orochimaru's strength had declined significantly. Lord Hokage, you underestimate your old classmate. In my opinion, he might be even more troublesome without his hands. For Sasuke's sake, Yilan decided to give Tsunade a heads up. What did he do this time? Tsunade hadn't expected to get such unexpected information from Yilan. Tsunade's feelings for Orochimaru were very complicated. Do you still remember the impure world reincarnation technique? Of course, I remember. When Orochimaru found her, he used this technique to tempt her, saying that it could revive the two people she loved most in exchange for repairing Orochimaru's hands. But what does that have to do with anything? Tsunade had heard that when Orochimaru dealt with the third Hokage, who was resurrected as her great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather, Hiruzen Sarutobi single-handedly suppressed all three of them. When she learned this information, she knew that the impure world reincarnation was a pretty but useless technique. With the strength of her two grandfathers, either of them could easily defeat the third Hokage in his prime. The strongest Hokage. In Tsunade's eyes, it was a self-deceptive joke. Seeing Tsunade's nonchalant attitude, Yilan understood that Tsunade definitely hadn't considered this point. When I arrived, I first dealt with Manda, and then Orochimaru used the impure world reincarnation technique, which produced the fourth Kazekage, Rasa. Ignoring Tsunade's somewhat surprised expression, Yilan continued. I've seen it before when Orochimaru fought the third Hokage. The Edo Tensei he was fighting back then was not on the same level as the one I was dealing with. The completeness of the resurrected Rasa was completely different. I'm sure that the Edo Tensei Rasa not only has his consciousness from his previous life, but also most of his strength. Are you sure this information is indeed valuable? If Orochimaru's impure world reincarnation really achieves this effect, he only needs to resurrect famous ninjas from the past to defeat everyone. That's right. I had a hard time dealing with Rasa back then. Fortunately, sealing techniques are effective against this kind of technique. Otherwise, with unlimited chakra and an immortal body, it would have been quite difficult to deal with him. It seems we can no longer let him get away with this. We need to keep a close eye on Orochimaru's movements from now on. Tsunade was well aware of the terrifying nature of this technique. If Orochimaru were to act rashly and use the impure world reincarnation technique extensively, it would bring a catastrophe to the entire ninja world. Thump, thump, thump. The office door rang again. Yilan subtly distanced himself from Tsunade and stood expressionless to the side. Seeing Yilan's actions, Tsunade clicked her tongue. At this moment, only Danzo had arrived, and Yilan was watching to see how she would handle the situation. Even though they were her subordinates, they seemed to be scrutinizing her. No matter how magnanimous Tsunade was, she was still a little annoyed and said a single word in an annoyed tone. Enter. Chapter 93, The Crack, Part 2. The first to enter the room were not Danzo, but Koharu Utatane and Himura Mitokado. Danzo then walked in shakily. Not only did Tsunade frown, But Yilan's expression also changed. In Danzo's mind, he had always been a sinister and vicious old man who walked with a brisk pace and showed no signs of aging. He looked much younger than the third Hokage, who was the same age as him, but at this moment his face had become unusually pale. Shizune, what's going on? Didn't I just tell you to call Dan's over? Tsunade was somewhat annoyed that Shizune was incompetent. Why had she brought those two troublemakers along again? Tsunade, don't blame her. We came here of our own accord, Koharu Yutatane said directly, making her stance clear from this moment on. Shizune managed to squeeze in last and quickly ran behind Tsunade. She had no choice. The advisors had somehow gotten wind of the situation and had all come over. Okay, it's fine if you come. Tsunade didn't care about anything else now and just said it directly. Uchiha Sasuke encountered Orochimaru during this mission, but he has managed to return by luck. Orochimaru has always had designs on Sasuke and even launched an attack on him during the Chunin exams, as you all remember. Tsunade got to the point, and Koharu Yutatane and Himura Mitokado, of course, knew about it and both nodded. Sasuke was ambushed by Orochimaru as soon as he left the village, and at the same time he had already been attacked by his own teammate, Kagami, and was seriously injured. Wait a minute, Koharu Yutatane interrupted her abruptly. Tsunade looked at her with some annoyance. This girl still had no memory. We all know Orochimaru's strength. You say Sasuke was ambushed and seriously injured, so how come he came back alive and looks perfectly fine? That's because Yi Lan arrived and repelled Orochimaru once again, Tsunade answered directly, and seeing that Koharu Yutatane wanted to ask more questions, she said it directly. Don't ask Yi Lan how he was able to get here. This is his ninjutsu, and this kind of information cannot be leaked. This immediately shut Koharu Yutatane up, and then Himura Mitokado spoke directly. In that case, let's bring A over for a confrontation and see what really happened. Do you think he could have leaked Sasuke's information by himself? How can you be sure he has someone backing him? Besides, Sasuke heard Kagami say that he was conveying Lord Danzo's greetings to Orochimaru. Yi Lan went straight to the point, highlighting the most important details while keeping a close eye on Danzo's every move. Danzo, did you really do this? Mitokado Himura never expected that there was such a thing. The two of them were just teammates that Danzo had temporarily recruited. He never expected that Danzo would hide it from them. Heh, Uchiha Yelan's mudslinging tactics have no effect on this old man. Danzo remained calm, his pale face masking an undeniable tone. Then I suggest we torture A and ask the mountain tribe for help. That way, the truth will come out. Yi Lan's method was the most direct and fastest, but Tsunade was somewhat dissatisfied after hearing it. You evil brat from the Uchiha clan, you really don't care about the lives of your comrades at all. In my opinion, someone like you should be sent to school to learn what the will of fire is. Danzo launched a direct attack, seemingly without any grounds for rebuttal. Sasuke was a little angry. This was the first time he had ever seen someone call black white. Did this kind of person have no sense of reason at all? Yi Lan gestured for Sasuke not to panic and slowly said, companions. They are people you can entrust your back to. I can trust Kakashi, Anko, Guy, Asuma, and so on. What are you? Tsunade's initially somewhat displeased expression softened upon hearing Yi Lan's words. You bastard! How dare you speak like that? Zyrochen from the dormitory pointed at Yi Lan. This kid was challenging their authority. If word got out, it would be disastrous. At this moment, Jingyin was hiding in a corner, covering her ears, wondering how she ended up in such a place. You need to understand this. Sasuke and I are here as victims, and the suspect is among you. The fact that I can talk to you calmly already shows that I'm being very rational." Yilan choked back immediately, his Sharingan already activated in his pupils, and a dark chakra erupted from his body. "Do you really think you're so used to being a good person that you have no temper at all? You and Jishui have somewhat different personalities. You both seem like nice guys, but once Yelan crosses your bottom line, he will be ruthless no matter who it is." Koharu's fingers recoiled instantly, and she involuntarily took a few steps back. Having been away from battle for so long, how could she withstand Yilan's imposing aura? "Kid, are you trying to rebel?" Despite Danzo having half his body wrapped in bandages and looking like he was about to die, he didn't back down at all and instead walked up to Koharu Utatane. "Yilan." Tsunade seemed to give a reprimand, but Yilan immediately returned to his normal demeanor as if nothing had happened. Yilan is still young and a bit emotional. As for rebellion or anything like that, I, as the Hokage, am right here. Do you think the advisors would be afraid? Tsunade easily defused Danzo's difficult situation. What she was most satisfied with after Yi Lan returned to the village was that, unlike some ninjas who acted recklessly without thinking, Yi Lan rationally sought her out for discussion. "Let's call Jir over first and have him confront Sasyuk. I think all the advisors will know what the situation is." Page 47. As soon as Tsunade finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to Danzo. They knew better than anyone who had arranged for her to be infiltrated. Danzo didn't expect Yilan to listen to Tsunade so much. He had just wanted to muddy the waters, but the situation would change if Yilan made a move here. No one cared about Sasyuk being attacked, and they could find all sorts of reasons to mobilize the village to take down the two of them. If you and Uchiha listen to the Senju clan so much, the other Uchiha will be furious. Danzo was somewhat annoyed, but he still had a backup plan. Regarding A, unfortunately, he died during training a couple of days ago. "Dead. Old dog, you're pretty good at this kind of murder-to-silence trick." When Yilan returned to the village, he knew that the higher-ups must have received information that Sasyuk was all right, so it wasn't surprising that they killed him to cover it up. But he still couldn't help but say something. "Uchiha Yelan, you have repeatedly shown contempt for your superiors. I have every reason to take you down," Danzo said to him calmly and in a gloomy tone. "Old dog, what a show of authority you have. People like you are a scourge to Konoha." Ilan was also angered by Danzo's shamelessness. Reasoning with this kind of person was the most useless thing to do. "Boy, you weren't even born when I was sacrificing my blood and sweat for Konoha. How could a junior like you possibly understand the sacrifices I've made for Konoha?" As Danzo spoke, he ripped off the bandages on his body, revealing his entire right hand covered in wounds, including various knife cuts and burns, looking completely rotten. What's even more chilling is that when he unwrapped the bandage from his right eye, there was just an empty hole inside, and the flesh and blood under the eyelid were clearly visible. This stunned everyone present. No one expected Danzo's bandaged body to look like this. "Heh, old dog, you're quite good at stirring up trouble. I'm talking to you about Sasyuk being attacked, and you're talking to me about the past. All those injuries just show that your skills are nothing special." Yilan finally understood why Danzo's face had turned pale. It was probably all because of this charade. Yilan stepped forward, showing no sign of weakness. At this moment, whoever showed weakness would be at a disadvantage. "Enough. Do you even consider me Hokage anymore?" Click. Tsunade stomped her foot so hard that the entire office floor cracked, and the Hokage building began to shake precariously. She was truly enraged this time. Chapter 90 For the Crack, Part 3. Lady Tsunade is so scary." Shizune trembled all over and dared not step forward. She had nothing to do with this matter at all, but she was the most panicked person present. Yilan and Danzo both fell silent. At this moment, whoever made a move would be in the wrong. Killing Danzo was easy, but escaping from Konoha was difficult. Yilan would not choose to leave the village unless absolutely necessary. Don't be fooled by Orochimaru and Itachi being S-rank rogue ninjas who seem harmless. They hide themselves and keep a low profile in the outside world. If we kill Danzo now, he might be buried by the memorial stone and hailed as a hero by the village, which would be a terrible waste. I will send someone to investigate how it died. As for Danzo, Tsunade paced back and forth a few steps before making up her mind. You're getting old. I only realized today how bad your health has become. You should rest more. Let the head of the Hyuga clan take over the advisor position. Danzo never imagined that his feigned weakness would give Tsunade an opening. He couldn't really refute this excuse, so he just focused his gaze on his two classmates. No, Mitokado Hamura and Utatane Koharu unsurprisingly spoke up, but at this moment another person spoke up. It was Yoru. Tsunade was not surprised by the opposition of the other two advisors, but she certainly did not expect Yilan to speak up. This old dog deceives his superiors and subordinates, distorts the truth, and abuses his power. He is a scourge to Konoha. I suggest that the Hokage expel him from the village forever. You. Danzo was shocked by Yilan's explosive remarks, and his already weakened body could barely stand. Everyone present was stunned by Yilan's words. No matter what, it shouldn't have come to this. This was even more unacceptable than him killing Danzo. Since the founding of Konoha, there has never been a precedent of someone being expelled from the village. Most of them have defected voluntarily. If he were to be expelled from the village, he would truly become the first person in Konoha's history to do so. Absurd. Nonsense. The two advisors also realized what was happening and immediately started cursing. However, Yilan was not angry at all and looked at Tsunade calmly. Tsunade had a headache, and others would think Yilan was joking, but she knew he was serious. Don't bring up things like expelling him from the village anymore. Danzo was in the wrong first, and this punishment is too harsh. Tsunade, what do you mean I was in the wrong first? I've already said that Kagami's death was just an accident, and I know absolutely nothing about Sasuke's attack. Judging from Yilan's tone, he had already pinned the blame for Sasuke's attack on himself. Even if there were direct evidence, he wouldn't admit it. To achieve his goal of becoming Hokage, he will definitely protect his image in front of others, at least to avoid giving the villagers a bad impression. Heh! Yilan was too lazy to waste any more words and sneered. Danzo had already disregarded all shame for the sake of power. This kind of stubborn denial was very similar to some Western politicians in his previous life. Even if you were truly unaware, as the leader of Root, you cannot escape blame for such a grave mistake made by your subordinate. You are no longer suitable to remain in Root. Tsunade has now truly dealt a fatal blow. The position of advisor is not that important to Tsunade. Her ultimate goal is to remove Danzo from Root. Tsunade, this might not be appropriate. Maitoman Hamura said somewhat awkwardly that he had come to realize during his time with Root that he was simply not cut out for it. None of the Root ninjas obeyed his command, not to mention Danzo's tongue-severing seal. As long as he lived, Root would be entirely on Danzo's side. Tsunade looked at Mitokado Hamura with a disappointed expression. This guy was all talk and no action, so she could only say, "You don't need to worry about that. I will send someone to the Root to assist you in managing it." Tsunade had already planned this all along, and she was taking advantage of this opportunity to seize control of the situation. Danzo's heart bled as he watched, as the group decided to remove him from his position as leader of Root in just a few words, and he shouted, "I shed blood for the village. I distinguished myself in the Second Shinobi World War, and I was wounded. Is this how you treat me? Danzo, don't make things too ugly. I agree with Tsunade's decision on this matter, and besides, Tsunade has reserved your position as an advisor." Koharu was somewhat dissatisfied. Even so, Danzo and she were still on equal footing. Even a fool would see that Danzo was behind everything in Sasuke's affair. So what did he have to be ungrateful for? All right, you all just wait. Danzo didn't linger. He slammed the door and left. But as soon as he left the office, the anger on his face disappeared. He snorted coldly and quickly left the Hokage building. He can't maintain this state for long. Without the sharing and suppression, the wood release within him could go berserk at any moment. If it weren't for the fact that he could better suppress it by cooperating with Orochimaru, Danzo would never have taken this risk. Next, Tsunade and Mitokado Hamura discussed some issues related to Root, and then sent the other two advisors away, but kept Yilan there, allowing him to listen in on the whole process. Yilan kept looking in the direction Danzo had left. He felt that things were being handled like a child's play, and his intuition told him that all of this was just to appease him. In Yilan's mind, at the very least, Danzo should be sent to prison. Simply removing him from the position of Root leader was too lenient. His gaze swept imperceptibly around the room. Apart from Jingyin, who seemed a little flustered, everyone else had returned to their usual selves. The rules of Konoha, which everyone must abide by, are a dogma etched in the hearts of all Konoha ninjas. But at this moment, they are a joke. While Tsunade was still talking with the two advisors, Yilan didn't wait any longer and opened the office door directly. Uchiha Yelan, Tsunade rarely called Yelan by his full name. "Lord Hokage, I'm still feeling a bit unwell, so I'll have to stay and keep you company." Clang! The sound of the door closing wasn't loud, but Tsunade felt a little flustered. She understood that this was Yilan's dissatisfaction, but how could she possibly expel Danzo, as Yilan had said? Sasuke saw Yilan leave and followed without saying a word, not even greeting Tsunade. As an Anbu member, this was definitely a dereliction of duty. The Uchiha clan is still as arrogant as ever. When Koharu, seeing that the two had already left, expressed her thoughts and wanted to add fuel to the fire, Tsunade immediately raised her hand to interrupt her. This Naruto project is truly exhausting, both physically and mentally. Tsunade and Yilan have developed a rift, not because of their personalities, but because of where they are positioned. Tsunade could never expose Danzo's collusion with Orochimaru. Such a thing would greatly damage the image of the village's higher-ups. If the other ninjas knew, would they still obey the higher-ups' management? At that time, Konoha will be filled with fear, and there may be more bloodshed. This is something Tsunade absolutely cannot see. In doing so, she can only sacrifice the interests of Yilan and Sasuke. Evidence. It's a joke to the higher-ups in Konoha. Sasuke's matter was hastily resolved, so how can the Uchiha clan's matter be solved? If giving it to them was useless, Yilan had already decided to go all out. From the first time he met Danzo, he understood the old man's thirst for power. He made no secret of his covetousness for the Hokage position. He wanted to make this a complete pipe dream, to ensure that Danzo would never be able to sit in that position. This would be far more painful for him than killing him. Yilan stared at the scroll hidden on his wrist, which contained Russa's impure world reincarnation technique. He had to hurry and break this technique. As Yilan lowered his head to think, a shadow appeared in front of him. Without looking up, he spoke. So the coward has finally shown his true colors. Chapter 95, Accident. How did your mouth become so sharp? Kakashi had been waiting outside the Hokage building. The commotion Tsunade had given him quite a fright, but he was relieved to see Yi Lan come out unharmed. It seemed the matter had been resolved. How about I treat you to a meal to celebrate your safe return? Kakashi didn't know how to comfort him, and he didn't want to know anything about the power struggles within the Hokage upper echelons, so he said this. Yi Lan didn't offer any more pointless explanations. He glanced at Kakashi and said, I remember you wanted to talk to me before I left. What was it? Well, it was just some trivial matter, and it's already been resolved. Kakashi glanced in another direction and said casually. Yi Lan didn't ask any further questions, but just glanced at him and said, I won't go eat. I'll go back and rest. I'll leave Sasuke to you. Sasuke's injuries haven't fully healed, and he should go to the hospital for observation to avoid any long-term effects. Yi Lan, on the other hand, doesn't have any serious injuries. Let's go to the hospital first. Sakura is there too. You haven't seen her in a while. Sasuke remained silent. He was unsure how to deal with Sakura. The business and rules of the Anbu were one factor, but more importantly, he didn't want to waste time on her. Kakashi felt gratified to see his student Sasuke becoming more and more outstanding, and who was about to become a Jonin of Konoha. He believed that Sasuke would definitely make more contributions to Konoha in the future. Kakashi was asking if there was something wrong with his Sharingan, as he was wondering if there was something wrong with his eyes. Yi Lan already guessed what Kakashi wanted to ask. Only the Mangekai, whose Sharingan can cause harm to the eyes. There's no precedent for outsiders awakening the Mangekairu. There are very few Uchiha who can manipulate the Sharingan to the point of being like Kakashi, so even if someone possessed the Mangekairu, would Yi Lan be able to accept it? Page 48. Kakashi's attitude was somewhat unpredictable. He probably wanted to ask Yi Lan at first, but after this happened, he kept it a secret, which made Yi Lan wonder. Even if you awaken the kaleidoscope, what can you achieve with just one eye? There will be differences between different kaleidoscopes. Yi Lan stopped thinking too much and went home to rest. His words to Tsunade and Kakashi weren't just perfunctory, he was genuinely tired. As for the impure world reincarnation technique, he would still have time to research it at the experimental base outside the village. The next evening, just as Yi Lan was about to leave, there was a knock on the front door. Yi Lan was puzzled. After this incident, Kakashi and Tsunade wouldn't be looking for him for a while. Sasuke would probably be getting to know his new captain, so he wouldn't come either. So who else would come? He opened the door with a puzzled look in his eyes and saw a standard Jonin vest from Konoha, but it didn't seem to fit him at all. Red beans. Hongdu's outfit looked like a delinquent girl wearing a school uniform, which didn't suit her at all, making Yi Lan almost not recognize her. Haha, you didn't expect that, did you? I've become a Jonin too. Hongdu said with a smile. I just received my appointment letter and Jonin badge from Tsunade today and came straight here to Yelan. Hongdu knew in her heart that if it weren't for Yelan, she would have been a special Jonin for the rest of her life after leaving Orochimaru. It sounds good to say she was a Jonin, but only those who have been special Jonin know the real difference. Congratulations. But what brings you here? Yi Lan said calmly that he had built a good relationship with Hongdu just to better integrate into Konoha. If he really fought with the Konoha leadership that day, Hongdu would definitely choose to help Konoha. She had already made a choice between Orochimaru and Konoha once before, so Yi Lan didn't expect Anko to be of any help to him. Look at you, all dejected. Is this still the Uchiha, Yelan I know? So what if you let Orochimaru go? We can just catch him again next time. I don't even care anymore. Hearing Anko's words, Yelan fell silent. Even Anko, who had become a Jonin, didn't know about Danzo. It seemed that the Konoha leadership was very united in their statements. Let's go. I promised to treat you to a meal after I become a Jonin. You haven't forgotten, have you? Hongdu patted Yelan and urged. Yelan also remembered that such a thing had happened. He had casually agreed to it at the time, but he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. I said, you look really strange in that outfit. Seeing this, Yelan stopped refusing. He was feeling a bit gloomy anyway, and having Hongdu, who had an explosively good mentality, around was a way to cheer himself up. Yes, it feels a bit strange. Hongdu looked at Yelan, who had never worn a Konoha Jonin uniform before. He usually wears a black fitted jacket with a light-colored inner layer. The clothes are not too tight, which allows Yelan to move quickly. The fitted style does not look cumbersome. Coupled with his absolutely handsome looks, he is the most eye-catching person on the streets of Konoha. As for the Jonin uniforms they were given back then, I wonder where they're gathering dust in some box. In the end, Hongdu simply threw the vest at Yelan's house, preferring to wear her own favorite clothes. What do you mean by dumping this thing here? Yelan was stunned by Hongdu's actions. What was going on? Even if you're casual, you can't be this casual. Oh, I'll just get it when I get back after I finish eating. What kind of look is it to carry it around like that? Hongdu said casually. Even if it's not suitable to hold it in your hand, you can seal it in a scroll. A dignified Jonin shouldn't be unable to even seal something, right? Yelan was too lazy to even complain about her anymore. Who knew what she would do next? Hongdu laughed and joked as she and Yelan walked arm in arm straight to the barbecue restaurant in Konoha, completely ignoring the pointing and whispering of passers-by. Comfortable, Tilda. Hongdu gulped down half a glass of beer, emptying more than half of the glass in one go. She then poured herself a fresh glass, glanced at the juice in front of Yelan, and smacked her lips. How come you're not an adult yet? Hongdu felt like she had known Yelan for a while, but when she looked back, it hadn't even been a year. Forget about it. Even if I'm an adult, I won't touch alcohol. Yelan put down his baggage. He could be more casual in front of Hongdu. How boring. Hongdu swirled her wine glass, then continued drinking. Excess wine seeped from her chin, but she didn't seem to care at all, displaying the demeanor of a true heroine. Thud. The empty wine glass was slammed onto the table by Hongdu. Her face was already slightly flushed. This guy was getting a little tipsy. Drink less. I don't want you to throw up on me. Yelan knew that Hongdu had drunk enough when she saw her appearance. Hongdu had only drunk this much when they ate together before. No, no, no. Today is the day I become a Jonin. I have to drink to my heart's content. Hongdu stopped using a wine glass and started chugging straight from the bottle, downing half a bottle in no time. You're this happy to become a Jonin? Yelan couldn't understand this feeling. After all, it only took him a few months to go from special Jonin to Jonin. Not only that, Lady Tsunade also transferred me to Root, which is where Orochimaru used to be. I always thought I would never be able to catch up with Orochimaru in this lifetime, but I never thought this day would come. Even the carefree Anko felt a pang of emotion. Could it be that she, who was always so innocent, truly harbored no resentment? Of course she did. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so excited when Orochimaru came to the village. Red Bean will go to the Root. This is what surprised Yelan the most. Right, Tsunade once said that she would send people to the Root to help Mitokado Hamura. I didn't expect it to be Red Bean. How about that? Are you surprised? Call me next time you go to catch Orochimaru, and you definitely won't be as embarrassed as last time." As she spoke, Anko puffed out her chest. The last time she was referring to was during the Chunin exams, when she was simply a burden. Now, her improved strength had given her renewed confidence. Looking at the somewhat spirited Hongdu, Yelan smiled, finished his juice, poured himself some of the remaining beer from Hongdu's glass, and picked up his glass to say something. "I'll just have a drink with you this time. I'll definitely invite you next time." Although he had never drunk alcohol before, he had heard that beer was not very strong and that drinking a little bit should be fine. Seeing that Hongdu was so happy, Yilan let his guard down and drank it all in one gulp. "Excellent, excellent." Hongdu was very surprised and happy about Yelan's actions. No matter how excited she was, drinking alone was no fun. She blew the bottle dry in one breath and turned around to continue shouting. "Two more bottles, boss." Hongdu was about to press her advantage and try to persuade Yelan to drink more, but she froze when she looked back at Yelan with a smile. Yelan appeared completely unconscious, slumped onto the table, a stark contrast to her usual composed demeanor. "Miss, drinking with a minor is illegal," the clerk, who was carrying 2 bottles of beer, yelled at Hongdu when he saw Yelan slumped over the table. "Hey, no, it's me. Him." Chapter 96, Tomb Sweeping. Hongdu grumbled as she picked up Yelan, declaring that she would never drink with him again, even if he wanted to. "I've heard of people getting drunk after just 1 cup of wine, but what's this, 1 sip and you're done for thing?" Hongdu, who was initially a bit tipsy, sobered up considerably and led Yelan out of the barbecue restaurant under the suspicious gazes of the other diners. After finally bringing Yelan home, they placed him on the bed and carefully lowered his head. This inevitably brought him closer to Yelan on the face. Without his sharp gaze, Yelan's face looked more like his age, with a somewhat youthful appearance that made people want to protect him. Looking at his face, you would never imagine that Yelan is a seasoned jonin who has seen countless life and death. Instead, he seems like an innocent boy who has never experienced the world. Are all the boys in the Uchiha clan this good-looking? Hongdu couldn't help but pinch Yelan's cheek. This kind of opportunity was very rare, and she had wanted to do it for a long time. Feeling somewhat uncomfortable, Yelan frowned and let out a soft groan. Upon hearing this, Hongdu quickly withdrew her hand, glancing around guiltily. She only breathed a sigh of relief after seeing that there was no movement. Hongdu sighed as she looked at the sleeping Yelan, patted her face with both hands to banish inappropriate thoughts, and finally left Yelan's house with her jonin vest. Afterwards, Yelan didn't ask Hongdu what had happened, and Hongdu didn't mention it either. The two continued to interact as usual. After resting for a few days, Yelan took a stroll on the streets of Konoha, feeling somewhat bored. Tsunade had no new orders and was now free. If she left the village at this time, she might be discovered by some people with ulterior motives. Fortunately, Yelan stayed in Konoha and waited for an opportunity. Bored, Yelan looked around until she saw a sign and stopped looking. Mountain Flower Shop. After thinking for a moment, Yelan walked directly into the store. "Welcome, brother Yelan." Ino, who had been helping her family manage the shop, looked at Yelan in surprise, not expecting that Yelan would come to the flower shop to buy something. "Ino, it's been a long time." Yelan looked at the girl in front of him. Her hair, which had been cut off during the Chunin exams, had grown back and would probably return to its original length soon. After a year as a ninja, she seemed to have matured considerably. "Haven't seen you for a long time." Ino stammered, expressing a mixture of surprise and worry about Yelan's arrival. To her surprise, it had indeed been a while since they had met. Since she couldn't be Yelan's student, and their relationship was only based on a few missions they had worked together. She felt that going to see Yi Lan rashly might have some negative consequences. My concern is, what is Yi Lan doing at the flower shop? He must be buying flowers, but I haven't heard of anyone in Konoha being injured. Buying flowers isn't for visiting a sick person, so could it be? Just as Ino was lost in thought, Yi Lan gently flicked her forehead and smiled slightly. Ignoring guests like this doesn't align with the Yamanaka family's way of hospitality, does it? Ino's face flushed red, and she was also unexpectedly excited. Brother Yelan, who do you want to buy flowers for? Ino has figured it out. She's not afraid of anyone, no matter who her opponent is. She's never backed down when it came to competing with Sakura for Sasuke. If someone tries to take Yelan away, she's absolutely confident she can drive them away. After hearing Ino's words, Yelan's smile vanished, and she said softly, "I'm for visiting Grave." Ino's previously energetic expression immediately deflated. Oh right, it's almost time for tomb sweeping now, and Yelan's surname is Uchiha. Ino stopped talking, silently walked to a counter, wrapped up a bunch of white chrysanthemums, and handed them to Yi Lan without saying a word. Thank you, Ino. How much? As Yi Lan was about to take out her money to pay, Jing Yi quickly waved her hand and said no need. Before she could say anything more, Yi Lan took out a large bill and placed it on the counter. After everything was over, I turned to leave. Brother Yi Lan. Seeing that Yi Lan was about to leave, Jingyi mustered up her courage and called out. Out of politeness, Yi Lan turned around, her eyes filled with a hint of doubt. I don't know how to say it, but we've always been by your side. Yi Lan was somewhat surprised after hearing this and chuckled softly. Even if she became a ninja, the little girl's innocence couldn't be erased in a short time. What are you laughing at? Page 49. Ino said angrily, having finally mustered the courage to speak, only to be met with ridicule. It's nothing, Ino, thanks. Yi Lan turned and left the flower shop without lingering, her usual cold gaze returning. It's truly an ignorant statement, she thought. Too naive, and you'll always be the one who gets hurt. Leaving the bustling streets, we arrived at the most remote Uchiha clan territory in Konoha. Having not returned for a long time, the weeds here had grown quite a bit again. Yi Lan arrived at the cemetery, looked around among the nameless tombstones, and finally found his target before walking to an inconspicuous little grave mound. Through his perception of natural energy, Yi Lan had figured out a few people he was familiar within the Uchiha clan. The one in front of him was Uchiha Yakumi, who had taught him and Shisui. A somewhat stubborn old man, recalling the old man's past evaluation of him, couldn't help but feel a little helpless. Uchiha Yelan, you have a resentful heart and are not suitable to be a bridge between the Uchiha clan and Konoha. Leave these matters to Shisui. Remembering the old man's words, Yi Lan said in a low voice. The man I always praised, Shisui, is now dead, and his body is torn to pieces. The man called the bridge couldn't even protect his family in the end. I really don't know what you were feeling when you died. The old man was stubborn, but he still taught himself and Shisui without reservation and treated them equally. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to graduate from the Ninja Academy at the age of 8 and become the new Uchiha genius after Itachi. There was another thing that puzzled Yi Lan. He hadn't found Fugaku's body, and the bodies of all the Uchiha elites in the security department had also disappeared. He hadn't told Sasuke about this yet. If Sasuke knew that the grave he visits every year is just an empty one, things would probably get messy. Even though Sasuke's mind has become much more peaceful, he would still lose his temper. Yi Lan poured a pot of wine in front of the grave. He had brought it specially, knowing that the old man used to like to have a couple of drinks. No one had brought it for him before, So now that he remembered, he wanted to let him have his fill. But after that night, Yilan made up his mind never to touch that thing again in his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. Kakashi, why was someone sent to spy on me? Yilan put away the wine jug and said unhurriedly, with my current sensory abilities, I sensed Kakashi as soon as he appeared beside me. There are very few people in Konoha who can monitor me right now. He could sense a subtle, imperceptible spying while he was resting, but he didn't react. Now, he might as well use Kakashi to give a warning to the Konoha leaders. You found out about this. Kakashi walked out with a helpless expression. He had just arrived, and he was discovered. Don't joke like that. Who in the village would spy on their companions? Perhaps. Yilan didn't look up and remained squatting in front of the tombstone. It seems you are paying respects to someone very important to you. Kakashi, who often stood in front of the Konoha monument, was somewhat moved. But they don't even have names. Every year, I'm the only one who remembers them. You're not the only one who goes to pay respects to them. Hearing Yilan's slightly mocking tone, Kakashi was surprisingly angry. I'm not here to argue with you, Yilan. Yilan remained silent and didn't continue the topic, realizing that she had gone a bit too far, and took the initiative to ask. Speak, what do you want from me? Seeing that Yilan was no longer assertive, Kakashi softened and sighed. I have an S-rank mission right now. Interested in teaming up with me? Chapter 97, Unveiled. Tick-tock. A drop of water fell from a stalactite in the cave, and the tiny sound was so clear that it traveled throughout the entire cave. This is an underground laboratory, far from Konoha. Half a year has passed since Sasuke's attack. Yilan, who is still in the developmental stage, has grown another centimeter or two, while Sasuke's growth has been even more rapid, and he already looks somewhat mature. For the past 6 months, Yilan and Sasuke have remained silent, perfectly executing every mission. Sasuke is almost a Jonin, and Yilan, along with Kakashi and several other Jonin, has been racking up S-rank missions. Their personal reputations are even greater than they were 6 months ago. The only thing that has bothered me in the past 6 months is that Danzo, that old dog, has started promoting himself among the people of Konoha through some unknown means. He recounted all the contributions he made on the battlefield, presenting a glorious and noble positive image, no longer the little-known leader of the Roots. Tsunade and her 2 advisors confronted Danzo, who brazenly claimed he simply wanted to maintain a good reputation in preparation for retirement. Tsunade and her team were helpless in the face of this explanation. Since no damage had yet been done, they ultimately had to let the matter drop. Are you ready? Yilan stopped thinking about the troubles in the village and asked Sasuke beside her. Sasuke nodded upon hearing this. He felt a little nervous at this moment, a feeling he hadn't experienced during the Chunin exams. Then, the summoning jutsu, impure world reincarnation. After half a year of experimentation, Yilan finally figured out the complete method of using the impure world reincarnation. The bandit who died in the previous summoning had regained his consciousness from his previous life. Now, this was the first time he had used the impure world reincarnation to create a ninja. At this moment, he also called Sasuke over. A coffin rose from the ground, and under the watchful eyes of Yilan and Sasuke, the coffin lid was finally opened. After a long while, the ninja in front of them finally opened his eyes. His sharp gaze was filled with doubt and some surprise as he looked at Yilan and Sasuke. Uchiha Yelan. I should be dead. The person in front of him directly stated Yilan's name, who was none other than Shuang, who had gone to Wine to carry out a mission together. Yilan had his own reasons for first bringing Shuang out of Edo Tensei. First, Shuang might know some secrets of the Akatsuki organization, and these secrets might be related to the Uchiha clan, including the mysterious person who previously controlled the fourth Mizukage. These were all important pieces of intelligence. Furthermore, there were no corpses of the Uchiha masters, so even if they were resurrected using Edo Tensei, the information would be very limited. At the time, not many of Frost's cells were taken, and they might be damaged if not used soon. Therefore, it would be safer to resurrect Frost sooner rather than later. That's right, you did die. This was the second Hokage's forbidden technique, impure world reincarnation, which can revive the dead and retain some of their fighting abilities. Yilan explained that he felt he needed to be honest to get information about Shuang, since the impure world reincarnation could only control the body, not the mind. You call this preserving combat capability. Frost already had a deathly face, and now his complexion was even worse. He tried to sense his own strength and found that it was less than a tenth of what it was when he was alive. He estimated that he couldn't even beat some experienced Chunin now. Ahem, don't worry about that. I didn't expect you to bring me much fighting power. Yilan was somewhat embarrassed. His impure world reincarnation was still far inferior to Orochimaru's. Although the sacrifices were just some mountain bandits he randomly chose, their strength was so weak that it felt even less effective than Orochimaru's first use of impure world reincarnation. This really surprised him. Upon hearing Yilan's words, Shuang instantly understood what was happening, crossed her arms, and snorted coldly. It won't be so easy to get information about my head. Konoha and Kirigakure have formed an alliance, Yilan said after a moment's thought. So what? The alliance is just a piece of waste paper to me, let alone a dead man like me. Shuang didn't shy away from revealing her identity and spoke directly. Mei Terumi told us about what happened before Kirigakure, including how the fourth Mizukage was controlled by a mysterious person with Sharingan. This intelligence came like a bomb, catching Frost somewhat off guard. How could Mei Terumi tell people from other villages about something like this? Seeing Shuang's somewhat angry expression, Yilan was not surprised. Shuang herself was a traditional ninja, and she would never expose such family scandals to outsiders. After Shuang finished venting, Yilan spoke. You can't really blame Mei Terumi. I traded Akatsuki's information for her back then. You know Zyro very well. Shuang looked at Yilan with some surprise and uncertainty. The person I fought back then claimed to be a god and had the Rinnegan. I almost died at his hands back then. I guess that person was the leader of Akatsuki. Frost was basically convinced of Yilan's statement, except for some doubts about it from his Rinnegan. The commotion caused by Yilan's fight with Pain was much greater than that caused by him and Obito. It was not something that could be done by ordinary ninjas. Moreover, I have also encountered other members of Akatsuki, and apart from you, their goal was the tailed beasts. Seeing the silent Shuang, Yilan decided to add fuel to the fire. The fourth Mizukage, being a perfect Jinchuriki, was definitely their target. You saw through their scheme and ruined their plans. Not only that, you also killed the fourth Mizukage with your own hands, causing the tailed beast to die directly. The Akatsuki organization had no choice but to go into hiding again. After hearing that Yilan already knew that she had killed the fourth Mizukage, Shuang stopped talking and silently faced Yilan and Sasuke, her eyes constantly shifting between the two. Uchiha Yilan, what exactly is your purpose in doing all this? Yilan knew there was a chance, but she still controlled her expression and said calmly, Itachi Uchiha is in the Akatsuki organization. He slaughtered the Uchiha clan. I swear I will kill him. Moreover, the mysterious person who controlled the fourth Mizukage is likely also involved. I need to know everything about this organization. Shuang's expression was somewhat moved. He had thought that Yi Lan would give some lofty reason, such as for the peace of the ninja world, for Konoha, etc. He was even prepared to hear Yi Lan say that it was for the future development of Konoha and Kirigakure. He did not expect Yi Lan to be so frank. Kill that mysterious man. If you can do it, I'll tell you Akatsuki's biggest secret. Shuang had already learned that the mysterious man was not dead either. The fatal blow he had left behind had actually allowed that guy to survive. Now, all he wanted was for this scourge of Kirigakure to die. If it weren't for him, Kirigakure wouldn't be in its current state, having even allied with Konoha. If this had happened 20 years ago, the entire village would have opposed it. Okay, I promise you. Yilan thought for a moment and agreed. Although there was no direct evidence, Yilan knew that the masked man was definitely involved with the Uchiha clan. Just based on the fact that he possessed the Manjikaru Sharingan, Yilan would have a good talk with him. Shuang sighed deeply, finally letting go of some of the burdens in his heart. He understood that Yi Lan would definitely do his best to fulfill his promise, not for any other reason than that he was an Uchiha. You and I both know about Akatsuki collecting the tailed beasts, but have you ever thought about where they got so many ninjas who could withstand the power of the tailed beasts? Shuang is right. Tailed beasts are not something ordinary ninjas can withstand. Yilan had also thought about this issue, but in the end, he just felt that the other party must have mastered some kind of powerful sealing technique that could perfectly seal the tailed beast. I heard this when the fourth Hokage was being controlled. They collected the tailed beasts, not to make them Jinchuriki. Shuang's eyes widened. Even now, hearing about this still sends chills down his spine. They have a container that can gather all the tailed beasts together and create an ultimate weapon of war. Chapter 98, The Second Chunin Exams. Yilan remained silent. He recalled what Tiandao had once told him. The ultimate goal of the Akatsuki was world peace. If they were to gather all the tailed beasts and create something like this, they might achieve that goal temporarily. Why did Pain obtain a container capable of sealing all the tailed beasts? Was it because of the Rinnegan? Yilan thought about many things in an instant. From the Akatsuki's actions, Shuang's intelligence was highly credible. This is the biggest secret I've heard about their organization. I don't know anything more. After that, Mei Terumi and I broke the fourth Hokage's control. At that time, that mysterious person wanted to take the fourth Hokage away. You probably know what happened after that. Actually, Shuang had intended to reveal the information after hearing about the alliance between Kirigakure and Konoha, but hesitated and didn't tell Mei Terumi, which she deeply regretted after his death. The Akatsuki's goals would cause turmoil throughout the entire ninja world, and telling Yelan would at least allow them to prepare. Yelan seems to have his own ideas. Konoha is definitely unaware that he's secretly learning this ninjutsu, but judging from his behavior, he's not a madman. He also has a deep-seated hatred for the Akatsuki members. It would be ideal if he could disrupt Akatsuki's operations. Sasuke had been listening to everything, and he was incredulous at Akatsuki's purpose. He hadn't expected them to be such a daring group. If the target is a Jinchuriki, then Naruto will also be in danger. No wonder Jiraiya always takes Naruto with him. With one of the legendary Sannin protecting him, at least Naruto won't be in any real danger. In a way, you've also disrupted Akatsuki's plans. The Three Tails will probably take another 2 years or so to revive, and by then. Recently, there has been very little information about Akatsuki in the ninja world, as if they have disappeared. Yilan understands that a major change will occur in the ninja world in the future. Page 50. I don't think about what will happen next. I'm already a dead man. After delivering the intelligence, Shuang relaxed considerably. The rest was no longer his concern. Anyway, thank you for the information. I probably won't bother you again. Is there anything else you need my help with? Having obtained this information, Yilan didn't mind helping out with some small favors. Shuang wouldn't contribute much to his combat power, not to mention that this half-finished Edo Tensei technique would probably not be used again in the future. Shuang remained silent for a while, then finally sighed. It's nothing serious. Let me rest a bit. I'm tired after all these years. There are many things I want to do, but none of them are things Yilan can help with. Rather than clinging to unrealistic fantasies, it's better to let them go from the start. Having already revealed Zyro's information, the last weight was lifted from my heart, and I stopped thinking about anything else. I understand. Yilan formed a hand seal to directly dispel Shuang's impure earth reincarnation. Without Shuang's cells, Yilan could no longer impure earth reincarnation of Shuang. Thank you. The body was glowing, and the skin on the body was peeling off piece by piece. Shuang understood what Yilan had done, and her consciousness was fading away. From then on, the legend of the eighth sword of the hidden mist village was no more in the ninja world. Frost's soul vanished completely, leaving behind a body that resembled a bandit, as if nothing had happened. Sasyuk, let's call it a day. We still have a mission. If we stay out of everyone's sight for too long, it will arouse suspicion. And I still need to prepare the materials for the impure world reincarnation. This time it was precisely because both of them were out on a mission that they seized the opportunity to come to the laboratory to conduct the impure world reanimation experiment. Now, as ninjas of Konoha, they still need to hurry back to their posts. Understood, I'll be leaving now. Sasyuk suppressed his doubts, knowing that now was not the time to waste. He took out an Anbu mask, put it back on, and disappeared into the cave with a body flicker technique. The Chunin exams are such a long and boring mission. It's impossible to refuse them even if you want to. A year has passed since Tsunade took office. She issued a statement to hold a joint Chunin exam. Sunagakure, as her lackey, immediately agreed, and Kirigakure, as an ally, also sent several genin to participate. Other villages like Kumagakure and Iwagakure did not participate, but some smaller ninja villages did, and their scale was even larger than last time. Because it's a joint exam, the exam venue is different each time. The first test will be a written exam in Konoha, and the second test will be held in Sunagakure, a place similar to the Forest of Death, which Sunagakure calls the Desert of Demons. Speaking of which, Sakura and the others are participating this time too. I guess they'll all become Chunin this time. Yilan packed up and left the laboratory. He was heading to the second examination room, where most of the candidates who had passed the first exam had already arrived. The climate of the Land of Wind was still difficult to adapt to. The desert was as boundless as the sea, with no end in sight. The sandstorms kept blowing on our faces, making them sting. Yilan, where have you been? Why are you only arriving now? Asuma stood at the gate of Sunagakure and greeted Yelan, with Kurenai following beside him. No need to rush. The candidates shouldn't have arrived yet. Yilan gave a casual reply. I can't stand you. I wonder how Ino and the others are doing. Asuma was just asking casually, not paying attention to Yilan's answer. He was still a little worried about this exam. Shikamaru, who had become a Chunin, couldn't participate with Ino and the others, so he could only have Sakura, who was still a genin, team up with them. Everyone knows the relationship between Sakura and Ino. On the surface, they've made up, but they're still secretly competing with each other, which makes Asuma somewhat worried. You should at least have some confidence in your students. Red looked at Asuma with some dissatisfaction. Their relationship was pretty much clear, and they were almost always together whenever they met. I'll go into Sunagakure first. I'll leave this place to you. Seeing Yilan slacking off, Asma complained. Yilan, it's not appropriate for an examiner to just leave like this. The second exam hasn't even started yet. Do you expect me to just stand here watching you two being all lover-dovey? After the first exam, the genin set off from Konoha to Sunagakure. Only a portion of them could participate in the second exam, and those who arrived late would be eliminated, so it was not a problem for Yelan to leave. What do you mean by Jiji? Asuma and Kurenai blushed. Were their expressions really that obvious? Even a teenager like Yilan could see it. Yilan gave the two of them a disdainful look, shook his head, and left. This time, Asuma was too embarrassed to stop him. Although Asuma was the Hokage son, he had a fairly good impression of him, and his relationship with the Konoha leadership was one of passive interaction. In other words, Asuma was self-aware and rarely asked for favors from higher-ups. Even when the third Hokage was in power, he only rebelled a little and joined the 12 Guardian Ninja before returning to being a Konoha ninja. Asuma was a qualified Jonin of Konoha, so Yilan naturally wouldn't have any ulterior motives towards him and would just treat him as a normal friend. Asuma, I think Yilan is really quite unpredictable. Hong also regained her composure. As Hongdu's best friend, she had heard Hongdu praise Yelan in front of her many times, and she had noticed Hongdu's unusual expressions at times. However, the two were not a good match in any way, and Hong did not reveal the truth to her best friend. Moreover, the conflict between Yilan and the higher-ups was no secret in their circle, and Hong, who came from a common background, intentionally kept a certain distance from Yilan. He is indeed hard to read, but he is a rare and reliable companion in missions. We don't need to worry about anything else. Asma may look rugged, but he is actually quite shrewd inside. After spending time with him, you'll realize that Yilan is a person with his own ideas and doesn't need you to say much. As a Konoha ninja, Yilan's performance is outstanding no matter how you look at it. If he weren't from the Uchiha clan, he might have even become Hokage. However, if things continue like this, even if he doesn't become Hokage, there's a high chance he'll become a Hokage advisor. All I need to do is maintain a calm and normal mindset. If only things could stay this way. Kurenai whispered in a voice that Asuma couldn't hear, sensing that Danzo's words in the village gave her a premonition of an impending storm. Chapter 99 Changes. Yilan was alone in the rest room prepared for him by Sunagakure when a loud noise came from outside. When I opened the window, all I could see was sand and dust. The temperature in the land of wind would drop sharply at night, and the storms would become even stronger. Sensing that several ninjas had already gone there, Yilan, as the examiner, decided not to rest and went out to see what had happened. Upon arriving at the outdoor area, they saw several Konoha Jonin, including Guy, as well as a group of Sunagakure members. At this time, Gaara had not yet officially become the Kazekage, and it seemed that the previous Akatsuki attack had left the Sunagakure leadership somewhat uneasy about him. However, it seems to be only a matter of time. Without a capable leader from Sunagakure, Gaara will definitely take over as Kazekage. Where did Kakashi go? Yilan found it strange that Kakashi wasn't involved in this mission. He wondered what secret mission he was carrying out. Hey, Yilan. Kai greeted Yilan upon seeing her, and Yilan nodded slightly in response before coming over to the group. Now we see the corpse of a giant scorpion lying on the ground, with a dark-skinned girl with short, bluish-green hair sitting on it. Judging from the headband she's wearing, she's a ninja from Takegakure. Brother Yilan. When Ino saw Yilan, she went up to greet him. Compared to before, her hair had grown out completely and was even longer than before. She had also grown quite a bit taller. What exactly happened? Yilan was still a little confused. All he had seen was the corpse of a scorpion. This kind of scorpion was a common monster in the land of wind. Apart from being a bit big, its strength was not even as good as that of a chunin. Choji wasn't full, so he came out to find something to eat. Sakura then said somewhat embarrassedly that the examinees from several villages had just gotten into a fight in the cafeteria and hadn't even had a chance to eat much. They were all right, but Choji, being a big eater, hadn't eaten enough and had to come out to find food. A group of people, feeling uneasy, ran out and encountered a giant scorpion. Fortunately, it wasn't some powerful monster, and the ninja from Takegakure village subdued it in no time. As ninjas, you won't die if you don't eat, so what excuse do you have for wasting food? Guy immediately reprimanded several genin, saying that the food prepared by Sunagakure was more than enough, but they were so busy fighting that they wasted the food. But I'm so hungry. Choji said with dissatisfaction that he was just caught up in it, and that he wasn't the one who started it. I just can't do anything with you. Asuma walked over, clutching his head. He knew that if he didn't appease Choji, more trouble would follow. So he took out a bento box from his pocket, which contained food he hadn't eaten yet, and handed it to Choji. Thank you, teacher. Keep your voice down, Asuma quickly ordered. In principle, as an examiner, he should not provide any assistance to the candidates, and his actions were already a violation of the rules. Seeing that Dingsai's problem was solved, and everyone was preparing to return to their dormitories, Yilan couldn't help but glance at the girl a few more times. Gaara then stepped forward and asked Fu about it. Why save the others? Wouldn't fewer people mean fewer competitors? Fu jumped off the giant scorpion and said with a smile, What does it matter? I came here to make 100 friends. Would you like to be my friend? Fu then walked up to Asma and the others, leaving them somewhat bewildered. At this moment, Fu's companions finally arrived. Each of them grabbed one of Fu's arms and took her away. As Fu was being dragged away, she still said that she wanted to make friends. How could there be such a ninja? Hong found it somewhat unbelievable. It was just like a child's behavior. Yilan closed his eyes and carefully sensed the fluctuations around him. The chakra in the air is very faint, but this special chakra is from a tailed beast. Yilan was quite certain. Having dealt with many tailed beasts, he could easily distinguish them. Takegakure is the only village that is not one of the 5 great ninja villages, but possesses a tailed beast. So that girl is the Jinchuriki of the 7 tails. Yilan had some doubts in his heart. Just as he was about to end his perception, he noticed that there was another person in the crowd staring at Fu, who seemed to be the Jinchuriki. Looking at Yilan, she saw a girl with short, curly purple hair tied in a distinctive bun. The headband she wore on her forehead indicated that she was a ninja from Aimgakure. Yilan recalled that the headband that Tendu used to wear was also from Aimgakure, but it had scratches from a rogue ninja, indicating that Tendu had once been a ninja from Aimgakure.